Chapter 339. In the past few days, she accidentally saw a young man who would send Renziling back at night. There were many old neighbors in the old town, so there was some gossip. Occasionally, when he passed by a small restaurant where a group of guests would sit in the shade at night, he heard it. Luocio also met him once, just downstairs in the old house. They were talking and laughing. Who could he be? He didn't know when he had a kind of uneasiness, vaguely irritated. Maybe it was just like what the old neighbors said. She was still so young, in the best years of her life, and at the time when she needed someone to comfort her the most. How could she take care of an almost adult child wholeheartedly? Moreover, the child was not her biological child. Who was that young man who would often send her home? Luocio always felt that he was not that kind of impulsive person, but gradually, he had an impulse that he couldn't explain. It was like a demon. Maybe it had always existed in his heart, and then it was fed in the months after his father died. Finally, he saw this young man for the second time. This day, he deliberately asked for leave from school early, and returned to the old town earlier than usual. The college entrance examination was approaching, so the school couldn't let him go easily. But the teacher knew about this child, and knew that a child who had just lost his father didn't have it easy, so he was more tolerant. Luocio hid in his room, and the closed curtain quietly opened a gap. He felt a sense of guilt, and silently looked downstairs. It was not a high-end car, but the man who got off was probably only 25 or 26 years old. It seemed that he was quite good to be able to drive such a car. He also saw Renziling coming out of the car. She seemed to be a little absent-minded. Luocio couldn't hear what they were talking about, but it seemed that they only said a few words and it was over. After the man nodded, he drove away. But Luocio didn't see Renziling coming up immediately, but leaned against the wall downstairs, lighting a cigarette. This was the first time Luocio saw her smoking. While smoking, she suddenly squatted down, covering her eyes with her hands, and her shoulders slightly trembling. He knew that she was crying. After so long, this was the first time he had seen her so sad. She squatted downstairs alone, silently sobbing. How helpless and painful was she to be like this? Luocio didn't know. He just suddenly had an idea that maybe what the old neighbors said was not unreasonable. He just looked at her. About 10 minutes later, Renziling stood up again, quickly washed her face with mineral water, and then patted her face, opened the door and walked upstairs. Luocio heard her footsteps outside the door. She gently knocked on the door, asking him if he had eaten, and if he was tired. These were words that could be heard every day. But he didn't choose to open the door, nor did he make a sound. He just silently sat in the room with the light off. She thought he had fallen asleep. Although she had brought him back here, she still felt that he was cold. Really? I saw it. That woman and a young man went in the hotel. Which woman? And that one? Isn't it that one? I knew that such a young man couldn't help it. Wait, did someone pass by just now? Who? He looked like Lao Luo's son. Did I see it wrong? Luocio felt that he shouldn't come here, but he still came here unconsciously. Something was driving him to come here, and he felt that he really couldn't control himself. He wasn't in a good state, but he did see the car that had sent her back. It was parked outside the hotel. The hotel was not high, and all the hotels in the old town were like this. Perhaps it was more suitable to call it a restaurant. Luocio suddenly felt a little ridiculous. Even if he came here, could he do anything? Should he do something? Just as he was hesitating whether it would be better for him to leave, some things were better left unsaid for both parties. Perhaps, even if he was alone, he might be able to pass. So be it. But he saw the man walking in the lobby of the hotel. Luocio was stunned. He knew that he shouldn't continue to get involved, but something was driving him. He quietly followed behind the man, but he didn't see him enter the floor provided for people to stay in. He only saw him in a private room on the second floor. The room seemed to be very lively. He took a deep breath and quietly opened the door. Before that, he even heard Rin Xiling's voice. It was so loud. No way. I will never give up the custody of Luocio. What custody? Is this your biological son? Another voice. It was the voice of a middle-aged man. Luocio thought he knew the source of the voice. The person who responded to Ren Xiling with a cold voice obviously had the same surname as him, a cousin of his father. The room was full of people with the surname Luo, people who dared to come from other cities. At first, Luocio's father was assigned to work in this city, and later settled down, living in the same place as them. Talk about marriage. Who is closer? We have the same ancestors' blood. And you. If you say you are his biological mother, we will never say a word. But you are just a woman who came in later. Will you be so kind to take care of him? How old are you? Can you bear it? What a sarcastic voice. I have said many times, please don't come to me again. I will not give up the custody. How many times had she faced these people? I think you are just greedy for money. What you are greedy for is my poor cousin's property. To put it bluntly, that's all. Suddenly, Ren Xiling didn't say a word, but she threw a pile of documents on the table heavily. She looked at the people at the table and said forcefully, "These? All the property after my husband's death, including the pension and the real estate certificate, and the property that was distributed to me after his death. I have entrusted all of them to my representative lawyer, and all of them are under the name of Luocio. When he becomes an adult, all of these will belong to him. Before that, I will absolutely not use a single cent of these treasures. Hello, I am the representative lawyer of Qing Yuan Law Firm. This is my card." The man said indifferently, "Miss Ren has gone through the relevant procedures here, and I guarantee that all of these are legally valid. If you don't believe me, you can take a copy of these documents to any notary organization for verification. If you have any questions, I can also answer them." Lawyer. This man, is he a lawyer? What can you give to this child? Yes. I am not his biological mother, but we have lived together for at least a few years. And you? Do you know what this child likes to eat? What he likes to wear? What songs he likes to listen to? When is his birthday? What does he like to play? Have you guys ever given him a call during the festive season? Do you want custody? With these, does he need you to support him? What can you give him? Don't you also want these? You, since you don't want anything, what can you give him? A voice that turned into anger out of humiliation. Ren Xiling pointed at her face and said loudly, as if she was making an oath, "I can give him a home." Why did she need to be strong? Because she knew that she needed to face these malicious words, and she needed to protect a father who had just lost a child. If she was not strong, if she was not covered with thorns like a hedgehog, how could she take care of that child? Luocio gently closed the door. No one knew that he had been here. However, some people knew that he had hit someone that day. It seemed that he had acted up in a small village nearby. He had suddenly slapped a middle-aged woman hard on the face. Slap. It was a very loud and clear sound. His slender fingers accurately whipped her face, which seemed as if it would break at the slightest touch. She didn't know how much strength it had, but it was obvious that it instantly left a red handprint on her delicate face. After being slapped, Long Shirua's mind went blank for a moment. She had never had such an experience. No, it should be said that she had never had such an experience after she became mature. When was the last time? Thousands of years ago? 10,000 years ago? When she was a child. She felt a burning sensation on her neck, but it was not that she couldn't breathe. It was just that the pain on her face made her feel an unprecedented humiliation. Long Shirua slowly lowered her head. Even though her body was lifted up by the neck, she was obviously not in a hurry. Her golden eyes seemed to dim a little, turning into dark gold, but also more solid. "You want to start a war with me here, don't you?" He could clearly feel Long Shirua's hidden anger. Luo Qiu didn't waver in the slightest in the face of this stormy anger. I just want you to know something. Luo Qiu suddenly let go of his hand. Long Shirua stood on the ground. He then continued, we didn't come back from the ashes. We weren't forced to disappear by those lunatics from the west. We have always been walking in the world. In the blink of an eye, an ancient and strange door appeared behind the club's boss with a rumble. Slowly, it opened up a little. It was this tiny strand of hair that revealed some of its secrets. Long Shirua suddenly took a big step back. Her forehead was instantly moistened. Her almost dark gold eyes returned to normal black and white. She even couldn't help but slightly tremble. She seemed to hear countless wailing sounds. She seemed to feel a kind of whisper from the whole world. She seemed to only see desolation and endless silence in front of her. She seemed to be in the endless barren land. The sea turned into mulberry fields. The sky fell and the earth cracked. The world seemed to return to nothingness in the next moment. She was the Shinryu who protected this land, but only this land. But above the land, he was right. In this era, in this age of chaos, how could there be someone who could compete with this place? Boom! A loud sound like thunder rang in Long Shirua's mind. It made her forget the poking pain on her neck. It made her forget the humiliation of being slapped. Her mind went blank again. This was the sound of this horrible door closing. It was so heavy that she couldn't bear it. The roaring cars on the road caused the airflow on the road blew to Long Shirua's back. A kind of coolness like water meeting wind helped her to recover some of her blank consciousness. She and the new boss of the club were still here. In this city, everything seemed to have returned to its original state. Sorry, I almost don't hit people. But sometimes I do get a little impulsive. She heard such a light voice. Instead of saying that it was an apology, it was better to say that it was just explaining something. I didn't hurt you, right? Luo Qiu got closer to Long Shirua. His finger lightly scratched the palm print on her face. The red mark faded instantly. Long Shirua subconsciously took a step back. She was full of fear and a trace of fear that she didn't want to admit. So she couldn't respond to this situation. Master! At this moment, the voice of Miss Maid came from Luo Qiu's back. Miss Maid seemed to break the space and walked directly to him. Long Shirua clearly saw that the eyes of this woman, which were bluer than the sea, became deeper. Her hands were slowly burning with the extremely troublesome black flame. It seemed that she was about to enter the state of battle. She might even say nothing and directly start the fight. Lunatic! Long Shirua suddenly said. She turned around and jumped to the roof of the nearby building. In a flash, she had disappeared in the night of the city. She swallowed the humiliation of this slap, but didn't have the idea of a life-and-death fight. In front of that door, her pride was completely torn and scattered into a pile of useless things. Master, just now, seeing that Long Shirua had left, Miss Maid also withdrew her black flame and came to Luo Qiu's side. Luo Qiu heaved a sigh of relief. After looking at the night sky silently, he said softly, a person who is easy to talk to is easy to be bullied. But if he is a lunatic or emotionally unstable, people will feel a little afraid of him. It's okay, I just warned her. You can go back first. Yu Yi nodded. She glanced at Ren Xiling, who was leaning against the car door not far away, and seemed to understand something. But she still felt a little scared. If the car didn't recover in time, would she have been lying in the hospital? Ren Xiling looked up at the building where she lived now. She didn't plan to go up. She took out the makeup mirror and looked at her face carefully. She didn't want to let Luo Qiu see something wrong with her face. This guy's eyes were as sharp as a thief's. He really inherited the skills of his boss, who used to be a policeman. She planned to walk up after taking a puff of her cigarette. But she didn't know why. As she smoked, she squatted down. Her eyes were a little wet and she had a feeling of crying. She looked so lonely alone. But she couldn't let others see her fragile side. 1 minute, just 1 minute of crying. Ren Xiling, do you understand? She said to herself, "Why are you squatting here?" "Just 1 minute," Renziling heard a very familiar voice. Luacio's voice. Her eyes were a little red and the cigarette but was still in her fingers. Renziling squatted and raised her head. Seeing Luacio here, she slightly opened her mouth. "It hurts," she was so shocked that the burning cigarette but hurt her. She quickly threw away the cigarette but in her hand, lowered her head and stood up. At the same time, she quickly rubbed her eyes. "There's sand in my eyes." "You? What are you doing here?" "No, isn't the light on upstairs? Why are you downstairs?" Luacio raised the shopping bag in his hand and said, "Don't you need daily necessities? I don't think you can remember these things." Renziling smiled embarrassedly. "Have you eaten?" "No. There's no time." Renziling shook her head. "Let's go back, I'll make something for you." Luacio said, "I just bought some meatballs, let's make some wine meatballs." With that, Luacio directly went upstairs. Renziling was stunned and quickly followed. She pushed Luacio's back with both hands and quickened her pace. I can't control my stomach." "Boy, hurry up. Throw away the cigarette box in your bag before you come in," Luocio said without turning his head. Subeditor Ren could only answer pitifully, "I know." When entering the door, Renziling threw the cigarette box into the trash can in the corridor. At this time, Luacio suddenly stood at the door and turned around. He said indifferently, "And throw away the things you hid in the closet." "Okay." Subeditor Ren kowtowed weakly. Then, "Welcome home." Renziling was stunned and suddenly looked up, but she saw Luacio had already entered the room. She couldn't help crying. After a minute, her eyes turned red again. Shen Meihuan was anxiously looking for her son on the street. Where could he go? Could it be that he had regained some of his consciousness? Many questions appeared in her mind. She even worried that something would happen to her son in his current state. She blamed herself that she shouldn't have gone out to buy things so rashly. After several hours, she still couldn't find her son, which almost drove Shen Meihuan crazy. Since her son was finally back, please don't take him away from her again. She prayed like this. Perhaps Shen Meihuan heard her prayer and finally found her son. Chapter 340. In front of the amusement center, Shen Meihuan didn't dare to approach her son. Why did he stare at this place? Shen Meihuan followed his line of sight and looked at the signboard that was not lit in some places. It should be around 10 to 20 years old, right? This place seemed to be the childhood memory of a generation. But with the process of urbanization, the appearance of more entertainment venues, and the development of more large-scale theme parks for mobile games, this place was no longer the same as before. Its light seemed to have dimmed quite reasonably. As a result, the recruitment process became a failure. This was the first place she took her son to play since she came to this city. Shen Meihuan's silent stare evoked memories. Perhaps it also evoked her son's memories. "Do you still remember this place?" She gently walked to her son's side. But she didn't get an answer. He stood there quietly, his eyelids barely blinking as he looked at the yellowing signboard. Would he be thinking about something? Shen Meihuan suddenly had an impulse. She grabbed her son's arm and took him into the deserted amusement center that seemed to close at any time. Perhaps this place could evoke more memories and even make him return to normal. With such expectation, she couldn't help but speed up. The inside of the amusement center was even more deserted than the outside. Most of the computers were shut down. At this time, there was only one basketball machine. In front of it, there was an old man who looked quite energetic, skillfully refreshing the score on the scoreboard. The salesman seemed to be dozing off. Even if there was business, he didn't show any enthusiasm. He mechanically counted the game coins, received the money, and continued to doze off. Shen Meihuan didn't care about the deserted place and the bad attitude of the salesman. Instead, she felt a little lucky that no one was paying attention to her. This was actually a good thing for her. At least no one would notice her son's abnormality. In front of a tortoise machine, Shin Meihuan tried to make her son remember more things. Do you remember? The first time you came here, you played this kind of game. Yes, although this machine is different from the first one, do you still remember? At that time, you played for an hour and refused to leave no matter what. You even threw a tantrum. But her son didn't respond. It seemed that he had heard it, or maybe he didn't hear it at all. But she didn't lose heart. She grabbed the hammer hanging in front of the machine and handed it to her son. She also saw that her son didn't grasp it tightly and the hammer fell to the ground. Shin Meihuan picked it up again, and the hammer fell from her son's hand again. Pick it up, drop it, pick it up, drop it. Over and over again, Shin Meihuan's eyes were full of perseverance. She didn't show any impatience. She felt incredulous. In recent years, as the business of the contracted factories gradually went down, her temper seemed to be increasing day by day, and she gradually became impatient. But now, when she did this repetitive, monotonous, and even uncomfortable thing, she didn't have any dissatisfaction. Finally, when her son learned to grasp the hammer, Shin Meihuan was happy from the bottom of her heart. She began to teach him how to hit the flashing tortoises with the hammer. It was very clumsy and the result was terrible, but she held her son's hand and felt a kind of happiness that she hadn't experienced for a long time. She remembered the past. A long time ago, when her son was a child, she would always patiently teach him how to walk over and over again. She would always patiently teach him how to babble. At that time, she never felt the slightest bit of irritation. Even if he only learned how to take a step, even if he only learned how to say an unclear word, it was enough to make her happy for half a day. Until this time, Shin Meihuan suddenly found that it was the happiest time of her life. She hoped that her son would become a dragon. When did she forget the original, purest happiness? On that day, on the day he came to this world, on the day his small palm opened slightly in front of her eyes. How could she forget those things? Shin Meihuan didn't know when she stopped. Her son's hand holding the hammer also stopped. She blamed herself, crazily feeling guilty, and choked with sobs. I shouldn't only care about the business, and I shouldn't force you to learn. She couldn't finish her words. The most tender part of her heart seemed to be pierced by something, and it was like a fishbone stuck in her throat. She shed tears silently. Suddenly, her hand fell down and the hammer hit the head of one of the plastic tortoises. That was her son's own hand. But he still didn't speak, and his eyes were still dull. He just moved like this. But this simple and mechanical movement was enough for Shin Meihuan to see the light of dawn. She couldn't help but stare at the young face. 2 bottles of Coke, 10 yuan. Here you are. More than an hour passed quietly in front of the old tortoise machine. It was almost time for the amusement center to close. Shin Mei's footsteps quickened as she walked towards her son. Even though she was only looking at him from afar, she felt a sense of satisfaction, as if her entire heart had been filled up. Why did she forget this feeling in the past few years? However, she quickly stopped in her tracks. In front of her, a woman in a black dress was walking towards her. Shin Meihuan was stunned. If she remembered correctly, she should have met this woman once in front of the hotel. But why was she here? Shin Meihuan lowered her head subconsciously and walked past the woman. But at the moment when she passed by, she heard the woman in a black dress say, "You're so kind." She said, "Why don't you bury him?" Shin Meihuan stopped and turned around in a panic. She was sure that she never knew this woman. She had only met her once. But why did she know this? What else did she know? You? Who are you? Shin Meihuan was alert. Have you been following me? It doesn't matter who I am. What matters is you. The woman in black shook her head and said, "Although I don't know what method you used to make him like this, I'm not sure. But do you really think it's okay? Why disturb his peace when he has already passed away? What do you know?" Shin Meihuan suddenly became agitated. The woman sighed, "I am also raising some children. They are even more important than my life for me. I know how a mother feels." "You know. Then don't stop me." But you have to know that your son is full of the smell of corpse. This is not a good thing for you. You will have problems with your body after a long time. The woman in the black dress seemed to be reluctant, but she still said, Listen, he may become a walking dead. That's a state you don't want to see. Shin Meihuan looked at her more vigilantly. I don't know you. I don't know what you are talking about. Please don't harass me. I have lost him once, I can't let myself lose him again. Since you know how a mother feels, you should know me. Why are humans always so stubborn? She could only sigh, but soon she laughed bitterly. But I am not qualified to say anything. I also have a stubborn afterlife. Well, I live upstairs. If you need anything, you can knock on the door of my room. I hope there won't be such a day. You? Who are you? Blackwater. She whispered, My name is Blackwater. Chapter 341. It was almost midnight, but the door of the pet hospital was still open and the lights were still on. Little Butterfly Monster was sitting at the front desk, wearing the beige uniform of the pet hospital, looking at the door frequently. Sister Long still hadn't come back. Luo Dance lay on the table, feeling bored. She was fiddling with a small bottle that used to be filled with honey, which had already been cleaned. She tied a blue ribbon at the mouth of the bottle. She didn't know why, but she felt that it would make her happy. After a while, Butterfly Monster couldn't bear it anymore. She raised her head, looking at Sister Su Zijuan, who was sitting not far away. Sister Su, do you think Sister Long is in trouble? Su Zijuan yawned, patting her lips with her pale palm. In my opinion, this old woman is the source of the trouble. It's good enough that she didn't make trouble for others. Don't worry, at least in this era, I can't think of anything that can hurt this old woman. She won't die. As the saying goes, a scourge lives for 1,000 years. What else could Luo Dance say? The automatic door of the hospital was suddenly opened, and the one who came in was Long Shiro. Luo Dance walked in expressionlessly. Seeing this, Su Zijuan stood up, stretching herself, looking at Luo Dance indifferently. See, speak of the devil. I told you that this old woman is fine, right? Well, I'm sleepy and it's time to sleep. If you didn't ask me to accompany you, I wouldn't sit here. Luo Dance still felt that what else could she say? You're the one who's sitting right here, also, don't you only sleep during the day? Butterfly Monster felt that she was wronged. But since Sister Long came back, this grievance was nothing. What gave her a headache was that, based on her experience, Su Zijuan would definitely have a good quarrel with Sister Long after she said those mean words that she didn't mean. But Long Shiro acted like she didn't hear it. She walked inside without saying a word. Su Zijuan's provocation was totally ignored. Seeing that Long Shiro was about to enter, Su Zijuan shouted, Old woman, your pants are down. What did you say? Long Shiro turned around absent-mindedly. Damn it, this old woman's head must have been hit by a door. Su Zijuan stared at Long Shiro inconceivably, frowning, and keenly caught something. What happened? Nothing, I just want to sleep. Long Shiro just shook her head. Long Shiro's late at night. TSK. Seeing that Sister Su Zijuan was smiling, but the anger in her eyes was rising, Butterfly Monster quickly walked out from the front desk and said, Oh right. Sister Long, you must be tired, right? I'll go get some hot water for you. Sister Su, are you hungry? The type B negative blood popsicle I made yesterday should be ready. I'll get some for you, don't quarrel. Just when Su Zijuan's fighting spirit was getting stronger, Long Shiro suddenly said, Pianxian, I have something to do these days. I have to go out for a while. Oh, Sister Long, are you going to pick herbs? No, I have to go on a long trip. Long Shiro said slowly, If the patients come, you can read my notes and prescribe medicine for them. Anyway, it's all the same problems. The things in storage are enough for you to use for a long time. Well, I know. Long Shiro nodded and said, Oh right, don't go to the cram school these days. Wait until I come back. Although it was a pity, Butterfly Monster still nodded obediently and didn't ask why. After saying that, Long Shirua, who had just said that she was going to sleep, seemed to have forgotten this sentence, and went out directly. When she went out, Butterfly Monster noticed that Sister Long subconsciously touched her neck. She didn't know why, but she felt that Sister Long seemed to be afraid of something. Was it an illusion? Inside the police station, a group of burly men were scratching their heads and discussing what Officer Ma had ordered them to do, 2 sets of high school exam questions, which were extremely heavy. God knew what Officer Ma had experienced. Logically speaking, it shouldn't be for his son. His son was studying abroad 2 years ago. His age didn't match at all. The only young police officer who knew the truth didn't dare to say anything. This is the lesson of Officer Ma, whom you respect and idolize in the cram school. Of course, because of these subordinates, Sir Ma was hiding in his office, leisurely drinking the kung fu tea before work. When the case was in a stagnant state, he needed to relax his mind. Sir Ma, Section Chief Chin is here for you. But Ma Hao didn't drink it and almost scalded his tongue. He rushed to his seat and grabbed the pen, lowering his head to read the documents seriously. Don't pretend, the things on the tea table have betrayed you. And the boiled water proves what you were doing just now. Old Chin sat down just like that. Ma Hao smiled embarrassedly, and said with a hollow laugh, Old Chin, how about I ask the director to allow you to participate in our investigation? With your observation ability, it's really a waste if you don't follow us outside to solve the case. The forensics team has already helped you solve the case. Old Chin said indifferently, if we have to do the investigation, what do we need you for? Do we only need one forensics team here? I'm just saying. Ma Hao coughed and said seriously, it's so early, what's the matter? We have notified Gu Jiajia's family to come and claim his body, but no one came these 2 days. No one came. Ma Hao was stunned. I don't think his mother will leave her son's body here. Let me ask for you. Old Chin nodded and suddenly said, besides, there's a strange thing. What strange thing? Old Chin said indifferently, do you still remember the scene of Gu Jiajia's fall? Ma Hao nodded, it's still vivid in my mind. He fell from such a high place, and his head was broken. How can I forget it all of a sudden? At the beginning we found some tissues in Gu Jiajia's brain, and then we took it for testing and the report came out. Old Chin looked at Ma Hao and said, it's a mutated cell tissue, I'm afraid he has brain cancer. You mean, he died of illness, not from falling? Ma Hao was stunned. He did fall to death, Old Chin said expressionlessly. Then you mean he knew he had cancer, so he committed suicide? Ma Hao was stunned. No, why didn't we know Gu Jiajia had a medical history? How can his family not know about this disease? Did he secretly go to the hospital, test it himself, and then hide it from us? Can he bear it alone? I'm just providing you with information, and I won't make a judgment for the time being. Old Chin shook his head, but it's strange that we can't find these mutated cell tissues in the deceased. Ma Hao shook his head. I don't quite understand. Old Chin had to say, I mean, I tested again last night, and I found that the cancer cells in the deceased disappeared. Ma Hao frowned. Is it possible that the deceased didn't have the disease at all? Old Chin looked at Ma Hao like looking at an idiot. Then where do you think those cells came from, if not from the deceased? I know. There's something wrong with the corpse. It's fake. IQ. Ma Hao was not happy at this moment. Then explain to me, how did it suddenly disappear? Do you think the cancer will be cured automatically when a person dies? That's why I came to you. Old Chin said indifferently. There's only one situation where we make a mistake, and that's when we miss something, not when we test something wrong. That's strange. Ma Hao frowned. Chapter 342. Ren Xiling and Ma Hao met again on the rooftop of the cram school. They exchanged information. Ma Hao didn't say anything strange about Old Chin, but simply said that they lost contact with Shin Meihuan after she knocked out Gu Feng. It's said that the man has a mistress outside and has a habit of beating her son. If I were him, I wouldn't stab him. Renziling didn't care. Maybe she doesn't want to see him again. That's the only way. Ma Howd shrugged. But since the case has been reported, we have to go through the procedure and send people to look for him. I always feel that the police force is usually wasted on this kind of family affairs. Renziling couldn't help but tease. What, do you want to have a big case every day? Old Ma, good for you. It turns out that you are ambitious. Go away. This case is enough to give me a headache. Ma Howd sighed. I forced myself to file a case in front of the leader. Now after a few days there is no clue. It's so troublesome to think about it. If I can't find any substantial evidence, the case will be closed. I haven't found out who the rumored teacher is. Renziling said helplessly. The rumor seems to have appeared suddenly. No one knows where the source is. And no one knows who the mysterious teacher is. It's so unfair to me. There are so many teachers in this cram school. Alas, it's too late. I have to catch the bus. Where's your car? Renziling said casually. It seems to have some problems a few days ago. I sent it for maintenance. Then I'll drive you. Ma Howd thought for a while. Anyway, I haven't seen little Luo for a long time. Let's visit him. I think so. Therefore, Boss Luo, who was not prepared, was hugged by Ma Yu. Sit down, I'll make you some tea. Luoqiu smiled and started to greet people. Ma Howd immediately sat down and sighed. Aya, it's still more comfortable to meet an acquaintance and have a chat. Luoqiu's living room was lit with warm lights, which made people feel very comfortable. Ma Howd felt as if he had relaxed all of a sudden. Uncle Ma, have you been under a lot of pressure recently? What do you mean? Ma Howd sat up and asked curiously. Luoqiu said casually. Normal people wouldn't show such an expression if they weren't under pressure, nor would they sigh. Ma Howd smiled. You're still the same. You're observant, just like your father. Yes. Renziling nodded in agreement. She hugged a pillow and sat on the edge of the sofa. Old Ma, this is the only thing I support you on. This brat's eyes were really sharp. You don't know, but this brat only looked at me and knew what I ate. That's because you only eat heavy food. Luo Qiu said indifferently. Renziling rolled her eyes and pretended to hit him. Ma Howd laughed heartily. Just like that, the three of them chatted and laughed. It was quite good to have a quiet conversation. Ma Howd sighed. Suddenly, his heart moved. He looked at Luoqiu and said, Luoqiu, let me ask you something. Listen. Ma Howd thought for a while and said, I recently encountered a case. I want to listen to the opinions of different people to stimulate my thinking. Sometimes your words are quite useful. Maybe you can remind me of something that I neglected. Renziling held the cup of hot cocoa that Boss Luo specially made for her. She sipped and listened. She knew what Ma Howd was referring to. That's it. Ma Howd sighed and said, At present, we still don't know who this so-called teacher is, and we don't know how to find this person. Luoqiu thought for a while and suddenly asked, Are the 5 students in different classes? Yes, different classes. Luoqiu said again, Do you have the timetable of these classes? Ma Howd quickly took out a timetable from his briefcase. He had investigated this cram school for several days, so he naturally had this information. Do you also have the information of the dead students? Luoqiu asked again. Ma Howd hesitated for a while and nodded. This time, he took out a USB flash drive. In this way, Luoqiu looked at the personal information of the dead and the timetable of the cram school in his hand. He didn't say anything, nor did he show any expression. He took out his pen again and kept ticking on the timetable. Then, he created another E1 form in his notebook and kept filling in some things. Ma Howd and Renziling were confused. What is Luoqiu doing? Ma Howd lowered his head and asked. Who knows? To be honest, sometimes I don't know what he is thinking. Renziling shook her head and whispered. Well, come here. Luocio suddenly raised his head. Ma Haud and Ren Xiling quickly walked behind Luocio. Luocio moved the screen of his notebook and pointed at the form on it. I listed the courses of these 5 students separately. Do you see the different colors of the grids? Ren Xiling nodded and pointed at one of the grids, which was the course of the first victim, mathematics teacher, English teacher. The Chinese teacher here is different from the second and fourth victims? Ma Haud also looked and said, well, the politics teacher only taught the third victim, but what's the connection? Luocio said seriously, haven't you found it? There is no teacher here who has been in contact with these 5 students at the same time. At most, he has only taught 2 students at the same time. Because the students signed up for different courses. Ren Xiling suddenly understood. Luocio nodded and said, that's right. Since Uncle Ma got the clue that these 5 victims are related to the rumored teacher, we can assume that this teacher is the same person. Isn't the problem obvious? Oh, you reminded me. Ma Haud nodded and said, let's assume that this so-called teacher is related to these students who committed suicide, then this teacher at least needs to know these students. But according to my observation these past few days, I found that these teachers basically got off work after class. The victims were in different classes at different times, and they didn't even meet. Luocio said indifferently, you can also assume that this mysterious teacher chose different classes in order to minimize the panic. At least, this teacher needs to know these students, right? In the same class, there were students who committed suicide one after another. How could this not be strange? Well, but if there is no teacher in contact with 5 students at the same time, Ma Haud was stunned, as if he had suddenly walked into a dead end. Who is this teacher? Ma Haud shook his head again, but we still can't be sure. Even if there is such a teacher, he is related to these consecutive suicide. What's the rumor? Luocio suddenly asked. The mysterious teacher can make students' grades improve by leaps and bounds, Ma Haud said. Then he quickly began to look at the materials of these students who committed suicide. Sure enough, their grades improved after they joined the cram school. But it's still a teacher? Ren Xiling said helplessly. But doesn't this prove that no teacher can contact these 5 students at the same time? Dead end. Ma Haud sighed. Luocio suddenly said, it's such a big cram school. Is there no one who can get the materials of all the students? Even in school, students usually call those who don't participate in teaching as teachers, right? Yes. Ma Haud nodded quickly. Even if the teacher only manages his own cram school, he can still see all the students. For example, the operator or the person who manages the materials. He subconsciously looked at Ren Xiling and blurted out, Sister-in-law, the direction of our investigation may be wrong from the beginning. Well, maybe it's not these teachers, Ren Xiling nodded, but in this way, the scope of the investigation is greatly reduced. There are only a few students who can be contacted by the cram school. You're a great help. Ma Haud laughed and patted Luocio's back heavily. I have many subordinates, but none of them have thought of using a table to summarize them. You're really my brother Luo's son. Luocio felt that even if his father was still alive, he might not necessarily use this kind of EBSB. His father belonged to the older generation of police officers and had rich experience. But in fact, he was not good at these relatively modern things. Ma Haud hurriedly packed up the materials and said, I have an idea. I have to act quickly. Let's call it a day. I'll come again when I have time. Luocio, good boy. You're a great help. It's a pity that I don't have a daughter, or I'll definitely let her marry you. Boss Luo shook his head. After sending Ma Haud out, Ren Xiling tiptoed into the living room. She glanced at Luocio, who was lowering his head to tidy up the tea set. She stuck out her tongue and tiptoed back to her room. Stop. Unexpectedly, Luocio's cold voice floated over. Ren Xiling said with cold sweat, Oh, just leave the things here, I'll tidy them up later. I don't want to talk about this, and I don't expect you to do housework. Luochu said indifferently, Did Uncle Ma say us when he looked at you? Did he? You must have misheard. Well, I'm part of it. After all, Sub-Editor Rin couldn't resist his sharp eyes. She was defeated and intended to confess. I just went to class and inquired about some things. Rin Xiling sat upright. She swore that she didn't sit so upright even when she was a good student. Go take a bath and go to bed early, Luochu said suddenly. Rin Xiling was stunned. Aren't you angry? Luochu said indifferently, Is it useful for me to be angry? If I'm not in the mood, just do what you want to do. Don't mind me. It's not good for you to suppress yourself all the time. If you can't live out what you want, you'll have what you want. Rin Xiling was stunned. She thought she would be scolded, but she didn't expect to be supported. She thought she misheard. After being stunned for a while, Sub-Editor Rin suddenly walked to Luochu's back. She put her hands on his shoulders and rubbed attentively. You're so sensible and cute. Come on, Mommy will reward you. You must be tired after using your brain so much. Rur's head? You'd better continue to suppress yourself. Rin Xiling gritted her teeth, pinched her fingers into a horn, and started to drill on Luochu's head. At night, the surrounding office buildings were already dark, including this floor. The cram school's floor was also dark, but there was a faint light coming from the computer screen. Someone sat in front of the computer, narrowing his eyes and showing a cold smile. To be continued. Chapter 343. Geniuses remember love in 1 second divided by small? This is a wonderful novel for you to read. Sir Ma, this is the information of the cram school staff. Love go small say ku. Although none of the brats in the office thought of making those troublesome but useful forms, they were still able to investigate a person's background quickly. The young police officer looked at Officer Ma. Looking at his smiling eyes, there was a subtle feeling in his heart. Sir Ma? Oh, I'm listening. Ma Howd coughed. Tell me about it. Including the legal representative of the cram school, who is also its investor, there are 17 employees in total. The rest are retired teachers who were hired by the school. Tell me about the employees and the boss. The boss is Dai Yukai, 47 years old. He used to work in the education department. He started a business after resigning a few years ago. He seems to be doing well. This year, he invested in a new cram school. The young policeman said loudly, but except for occasional meetings, he seldom comes to the cram school. His personal assistant, Su Zhao, is in charge of the basic business. Oh, this assistant is the manager of the cram school. From the manager to the accounting department to the purchasing department, and even the receptionist at the front desk, all the information was presented to Ma Howd in detail. According to the different functions, Ma Howd quickly locked onto a few people who were worth paying attention to. He quickly circled the names of several people in the notebook and said, The student's suicide happened more than a month ago. This cram school has been open for almost 2 months before the summer vacation. There was no problem before. He put the names on the table and said, These guys joined the cram school after the summer vacation. Keep an eye on them. See if they have any contact with the students in the cram school. In addition, keep an eye on the boss, Dai Yukai, and his assistant, Su Zhao. Yes, sir. The young policeman straightened up and replied. By the way, have you found Shin Mei Huan? Ma Howd suddenly asked. No, we called Gu Feng this morning. He said that Shin Mei Huan was still not back and he couldn't get in touch with her. It's been 3 days. Ma Howd nodded. It's been more than 48 hours. Ask some of your brothers to search for him. All right. After a while, realizing that his subordinate hadn't left yet, Ma Howd couldn't help but frown. Is there anything else? Only then did the young police officer dare to ask, Sir Ma, do you still want me to continue doing your homework today? Sir Ma. Ma Howd was stunned for a moment before he roared, Get out of here and get to work. Yes. Dai Yukai was 47 years old this year. Strictly speaking, he was still in the prime of his life, but he was probably on the last bus to the prime of his life. But even so, he was still ambitious. However, he was already over 40 years old. No matter what, there was no way he could continue to climb up the ranks of the unit and department. Before he resigned, he was just a small boss in an office. But even so, it almost took him more than 10 years. But in the unit and department, a person without a foundation was always a person without a foundation. He was not the kind of lucky person who could rise all the way to a higher position at a young age. Since he couldn't find a better way, he might as well choose another one. Only a few years later, his income had been unimaginable. As long as he could break some rules and seize the opportunity quickly and accurately when it came. The driver stopped downstairs of the building where the cram school was located. Dai-Yukai tidied up his sleeves, then walked out and looked up. To be able to rent an entire floor in a place like this where every inch of land was golden, who said that he couldn't afford it? In fact, not many people knew that his property was also in another building opposite this one. "Mr. Dai, you are here." At the front desk of the cram school, 2 receptionists stood up quickly when they saw the boss. Dai-Yukai nodded and said indifferently, "Is Su Zhao here?" "Manager Su is in the office." The receptionist quickly said, "Mr. Dai, I'll inform him for you." "No need, I'll go there myself." Dai-Yukai waved his hand. Before he left, he suddenly looked at another receptionist. At the same time, he reached out his hand and pointed at his chest. The receptionist was stunned and looked down subconsciously. It turned out that the badge on his chest was crooked. "Pay attention next time." "I know. Mr. Dai, I'm sorry, there won't be a next time." Dai-Yukai walked into the office alone with his hands behind his back. The receptionist who was caught was relieved and said with a little fear, "Sister Zhao, I'm in trouble. The boss must have a bad impression of me." "Lu, the boss is a good person. Don't think too much." The receptionist called Sister Zhao smiled and said, "It's just a small matter. He'll forget about it in a while." "I hope so." Lu shook his head and then glanced at the place where Dai-Yukai left, saying, "But the boss's eyes are really scary." "Well, let's stop chatting. Someone is coming." Sister Zhao pointed at the door. A girl in casual clothes was looking around in front of the door. She was a little petite and had the appearance of a petite and delicate girl. At this moment she was still eating snacks. After a while, the girl pushed the door and walked to the front desk. "Miss, what can I do for you?" Sister Zhao showed a professional smile. Only then did the girl let out an "oh" and said, "Yes, is there a fixed time to register for classes here?" "I want to register for several classes." "You can register during working hours." Sister Zhao took out the form and said, "Miss, you can fill in this form first." The girl was very fast. She filled it in a while and handed it to Sister Zhao. Sister Zhao glanced at her and then at the girl. She then smiled and said, "Miss Julie, right?" "Yes." The girl smiled, "But you can call me Lizzie." "Okay." Sister Zhao whispered, "There is no problem with this form. You can go through the formalities next time with the tuition fee and your student ID card." Lizzie nodded and swallowed the last octopus ball that she had just bought on the street. Then she left. When Dai-Yukai was about to knock on the door, the office door was opened and a woman he had no impression of walked out. She seemed to be a little flustered. She lowered her head, said hello quickly and left quickly. Dai-Yukai frowned and walked into the office. In the office, Su Zhao, who was about 34 or 35 years old and dressed in a suit, quickly stood up. "Boss, you are here." Dai-Yukai suddenly snorted. "I let you come here to help me with my business, not to play with women." "Boss, I was just discussing something." "Enough." Dai-Yukai snorted again. "Don't I know your virtue? If it weren't for your father's help, I wouldn't have helped you." Su Zhao didn't dare to say anything. Dai-Yukai sat down and Su Zhao quickly fetched a glass of water. He didn't dare to sit down, so he stood beside Dai-Yukai. "Boss, why did you suddenly come here today?" Is there a meeting today? What kind of manager are you? Don't you know if there's a meeting? Dai Yukai glared at him with a straight face. Su Zhao lowered his head awkwardly. Dai Yukai sighed and shook his head. I have an appointment with some teachers today, so I came here to have a look at the situation here. And I just want to remind you about those students. I have an old classmate who is familiar with the leader of the police station. They talked about it during the meal and said that they have filed a case and are investigating it now. Su Zhao was stunned. Didn't they say it was suicide? Why do they still want to file a case? Dai Yukai snorted. Don't you know that those who died were from our cram school? Su Zhao was frightened, but, boss, is there anyone who wants to mess with you? After all, we... Chapter 344. Genius remembers love in 1 second divided by small? Here's a wonderful novel for you to read. On the bench of the riverside park, Shen Meihuan was telling her son something about the past. A long time ago, she would take her son here for a walk after dinner and enjoy the night view of the city. Of course, Gu Feng was always with her during that time. Although she didn't want to think about this man, ironically, those days were the happiest days of the family after the reorganization. But the wind was unexpectedly noisy. Shen Meihuan's sun hat, which she wore in order not to be recognized, was blown away by the wind. Wait for me here. Shen Meihuan stood up and said. The boy, who was sitting on the bench with his back straight, nodded his head. He still did not speak, but he began to show some reaction. It was a good thing that he understood what she meant, wasn't it? The moment Shen Meihuan walked away, a person was sitting on the bench. It seemed that no one had noticed his existence. It was the boss of the club. What are you thinking now? The boss of the club seemed to be talking to himself, while looking at the river view in front of him. But obviously, the boy didn't respond to anyone's words. But the boss didn't ask further. Luoqiu tried to feel the boy's thoughts from his sight. Even though he knew better than anyone that this big boy in front of him was still very, very far from being a real person. It had been a long time since he fell from the building and was sent to the morgue. Even if Shen Meihuan's request was fulfilled, she could only make him recover the reaction of a living body at most. Maybe he would have a very weak consciousness. Even a little bit of obsession. Would he hate her? Luoqiu took back his sight and looked at the boy. The boy's eyelids seemed to twitch slightly. Luoqiu didn't know if that was his answer. Luoqiu nodded and stood up at the same time. He needed to leave. Shen Meihuan picked up the hat and came back. He just came to see the man who should have been dead. Shen Meihuan didn't see or even find out who had come to her son. She walked back quickly and looked at the sky. Then she pulled her son up and was ready to leave. Luoqiu silently watched the backs of the mother and son disappear into the distance. With his hands clasped behind his back, he suddenly looked at another corner. There was also a pair of eyes silently watching the backs of the mother and son. He was wearing a mask, a hat, and a pair of sunglasses. You can't see what he looks like. You know, he just started to move and quietly followed Shen Meihuan. He was also lowering his head and acting suspiciously. And what was he thinking about? Knowing that this suspicious person had left, the club's boss also turned around and disappeared into the crowd. Did anyone know that he had been here before? The answer was no. Lizzie held the pencil between her nose and upper lip. She balanced the pencil well and tried not to let it fall. It was the only thing she could do to pass the time in this boring class. Otherwise, she felt that she would fall asleep on the table. Otherwise, how could staying here be more attractive than eating a sumptuous meal? In fact, if it weren't for the task given by Sister Ren, Lizzie would have never thought that she would sit in the classroom one day. The last class should be in the 31st year of Showa. It's been 60 years. Lizzie sighed. That time really passed quickly. However, although it was very boring to listen in this kind of class, she was actually quite interested in the matter behind it. Sister Ren's plan was very simple, or the plan she discussed with Ma Haud was very simple. Although the range of the mysterious teacher was locked, If the teacher didn't take any action, it would be a desperate situation. Of course, Ma Hao didn't intend to give up the investigation of these people, but on the other hand, he planned to take the initiative to lure the snake out of its hole. The 5 dead people were all high school students. It was difficult to arouse the interest of the teacher, since he and Ren Xiling sneaked into the adult tutoring class together. But it needed a bait to lure the snake out of its hole. So Ren Xiling felt that Lizzie, who had a baby face and didn't look like a 23-year-old girl on her ID card, was very promising. As for whether this matter would be dangerous or not, Ren Xiling thought about it, and combined with the information she got from Ma Hao, she speculated that the mysterious teacher didn't meet the students directly, but contacted them through mobile phones. Otherwise, there would be a situation where no students knew the true identity of the mysterious teacher. So, once a strange message was sent to Lizzie's mobile phone, she would inform the police immediately, and then the police would interact with the mysterious teacher behind the scenes. Of course, in order to protect Lizzie as much as possible, 2 plainclothes policemen were arranged to protect her. Actually, I don't need to be protected, Lizzie thought silently. She didn't think that ordinary people could do anything to her. Of course, she didn't intend to refuse. Sure enough, I was right to think that I would encounter a lot of interesting things with Sister Ren. Lizzie began to look forward to it. Who was this mysterious teacher? Would he be delicious? However, after synthesizing the background and situation of the 5 victims and fabricating the information, Lizzie came here for 3 days, but she still didn't find anything. It's so boring. Lizzie rested her chin on her hand and yawned. She had already escaped to the bathroom, closed the door, and secretly ate snacks. It seemed that 2 more girls came in at this time. Lizzie didn't care, but just listened to the 2 girls' discussion about clothes, handbags, and so on. She found that the students here seemed to have a lot of pocket money. The girls all used famous brand bags and some wore nice jewelry. And the boys also talked about expensive things after class. 4,500 yuan. It's a little expensive. I can't afford it. I'm going to eat dirt this month. How about we go to Mr. Su? The topic suddenly changed. Lizzie sensed that something was wrong. Mr. Su should be the manager of this cram school, Su Zhao, who likes to fool around with boys and girls. In the whole cram school, he was the only one surnamed Su. But I can't afford it. I don't have enough money. How about Su Zhao? The scientific name of some kind of money transaction suddenly appeared in Lizzie's mind. He won't let the students go, will he? Lizzie despised him secretly. She recalled that she occasionally saw this guy in a suit passing through the corridor in the past 3 days. He looked like a beast in human clothing. But these 2 girls used the word again, which meant that it was not the first time they met him. What a self-degenerate. Lizzie shook her head and lost interest in listening. But the girl suddenly said, "This. Aren't you afraid? You're talking about the people who jumped off the building?" The other girl's voice suddenly lowered. "Yes. Didn't they all participate in it? You mean?" "I don't think so. I don't want to do it anyway. I feel a little regretful when I think about it." They seemed to want to say something, but suddenly stopped. At this time, someone came in to the washroom. Lizzie heard the sound of footsteps and the door closing, but she couldn't hear the 2 girls' voices. Lizzie frowned, quickly stuffed the snacks into her mouth, and then took out the phone. "Hello, Sister Ren, there seems to be a situation here. Let me tell you, just now." Blackwater returned to the hotel with a big bag of things. It was not the first time that the owner of the hotel saw this thin woman carrying so many things. And she looked so relaxed. Generally speaking, Blackwater would not stay here. But today she went to the front desk a little abnormally. The uncle was immediately overwhelmed by the favor. But Blackwater asked indifferently, "Did the mother and son on the 3rd floor check out?" "Oh yes, they just checked out today." "Why, Miss Blackwater, do you want to see that lady?" The owner tried his best to strike up a conversation with her. However, Black Water merely nodded and walked upstairs. No wonder she felt that the corpse aura here was much fainter than before. It seemed that Shin Meihuan didn't want to see her. Black Water opened the door of the room. Piggy, the most gluttonous of the little monsters, immediately pounced on her bag. Black Water smiled and began to distribute food to the children. Looking at the innocent children, Black Water suddenly thought that if one of these children left her one day, would she also be like Shin Meihuan? Black Water suddenly quivered. She had followed Shin Meihuan for some time, so she was sure that this woman was just an ordinary person. It was impossible for a normal person to have the ability to turn a dead person into such a state. As for the refining of corpses, it was generally the strength of the people from Xiangxi. However, with their superficial skills that had been passed down until now, it seemed that it was impossible to create such a strange state. Could it be, she subconsciously thought of the mysterious shop that walked the world and the boss that she had only met once. If it was the shop that claimed that everything could be bought, then it was not strange that Shin Meihuan's son was alive. "Sister Blackwater, don't you want to eat?" Little rabbit demon Ling Ling walked to Blackwater's side and asked with her round and red eyes, "What are you thinking about?" Blackwater lowered her head and stroked Ling Ling's head, whispering, "I'm thinking that no matter what, I won't let you get hurt. I won't let you leave." Chapter 345. The sky was not very blue, even a little gloomy, just like his mood now. Ding Dongxing sighed, sitting absent-mindedly on the back stairs of the classroom. But he was not alone here. As a good place to escape from the teacher's sight, there was never a shortage of visitors. Right now, it was class time in this city's number 4 high school. The two boys quietly sneaked here, smoked, and chatted. One of the boys was stunned when he saw Ding Dongxing sitting on the lower floor. "Why, do you know this guy?" his companion asked curiously. He shrugged and said, "He's the top student in our class." "Shouldn't the top student stay in the classroom and listen to the class?" His companion sneered. "Where's the top student?" "Probably in a bad mood," he said casually. "Didn't a girl jump off a building in our class last month? I heard that Ding Dongxing had a good relationship with her. It turns out that his wife died." His companion suddenly said, "No wonder. But it seems that there was another one who jumped off a building a few days ago. The TV said it was a boy from the school next door. Now the pressure is so great. Even the top students are about to jump off a building. Should we go back to the furnace? Don't talk about this, it's disappointing. Let's think about where to play after school." He skipped this topic quickly. So they began to discuss. They didn't know when Ding Dongxing left. They didn't know that Ding Dongxing said to himself before leaving, "Rong Rong didn't commit suicide. Someone must have forced her to do so." Ding Dongxing didn't go back to the classroom immediately. He came to the back stairs because he didn't want to be disturbed. So he chose to go to a deserted place behind the school library. He almost trotted all the way. Ding Dongxing stopped at this moment. In front of a green tree, he punched the tree trunk with all his might. More than a month had passed. Although the summer vacation was not over, as a senior, they had already started classes. But only more than a month had passed, but no one mentioned that there was a girl in the class. Her name was Qiao Rongrong. Only he always remembered this girl, her smile, her words, her appearance, everything about her. "We clearly agreed to hand in the big one together, but why did you?" Ding Dongxing leaned weakly against the tree trunk. The sky was getting darker as if it was about to rain. "But why did you change?" They went in and out of the library together, stayed together after school to discuss exercises, went to cultural parties together, and quarreled over performances. They also cared more about each other because of their quarrels. Why did he change? Why did he start to become cold and distant? Was it because of that man's appearance? It was not the first time that Ding Dongxing had quietly waited for her to appear downstairs, but it was also not the first time that he had seen her get out of a man's car. "Don't worry about me. Our world is different. Study hard. I don't want to go to Jiaodong University anymore. He remembered the last time Qiao Rongrong had said those words to him, not long after the start of the summer break. Ding Dongxing seemed to have lost all his goals and hid at home for an entire week, but he never would have thought that after that meeting, it would really be like what Qiao Rongrong had said. They had completely become people from two different worlds, and she had become the third person to commit suicide. Su Zhao. Ding Dongxing couldn't get rid of the name of the man who had changed Qiao Rongrong's life. Although the police confirmed that Rongrong had jumped off the building by herself, Ding Dongxing didn't want to believe it at all. Su Zhao must have something to do with Rongrong's death. Do you want to take revenge on this man? Suddenly, a voice rang in Ding Dongxing's ears, but it seemed to come from the bottom of his heart. It was hoarse, unpleasant, and sharp like an old witch's voice. What he didn't know was that there was an even darker thing surging in his shadow. It slowly turned into a blurry shadow and separated itself from him. That was the voice of Black Soul 18. I also hide in the toilet from time to time. Why haven't I heard of such things? Ren Xiling was like a defeated dog, staring at the pair. Was this the European popularity of newbies? Just like how people who had never played cards could inexplicably win the first round? Sister Ren, I feel so much pressure when you look at me like this. Ren Xiling shrugged. This was a cold drink place near the cram school, and the time was after the cram school. Ren Xiling thought for a while and said, according to what you said, Su Zhao is at most a scumbag who fooled around with female students. There are many such scumbags in society. But, did the two girls really mention the deceased? Lizzie nodded. It seems that they have done something together. And from the conversation of these two girls, I'm afraid there are more than that. What could it be? Ren Xiling thought for a while, then nodded and said, it's already very good to know about this. Lizzie, you've really helped me this time. I have to inform Ma Haud right away. I feel that this matter is getting more and more complicated. My intuition tells me that it will be dangerous. Let's just give it to the police and look for clues. Lizzie was stunned. Hey, Sister Ren, with your character, shouldn't you go deep into the tiger's den? What's wrong? Ren Xiling blew the cigarette. Maybe a few years ago, but it's different now. Although our duty is to report the truth, we should not cross the line if we can. Like this time, it's still within the scope of undercover investigation, but it's the work of the police if we go further. Lizzie didn't believe Ren Xiling's nonsense. She blinked and smiled. Is it because of Luochio? Ren Xiling said naturally, isn't it the duty of a family to not let them worry too much? That day, Luochio asked her to be more open and do something she liked. But how could Ren Xiling really be unscrupulous? When she returned home, it was more important than anything to have someone to say welcome back to her. Therefore, although she didn't charge into the trap like before, she could still carry out some investigations. Even if she was in the second line of work, she could still help a lot. She didn't lose her conscience. That was enough for her. Family. Lizzie dug a piece of ice cream and put it into her mouth. She felt the ice cream melting slowly. Family, what would family be like? She didn't know. She had never had such an experience of having a family since she was conscious. Hey, is that Su Zhao? Ren Xiling turned her head and looked behind Lizzie. Lizzie turned her head and looked. Su Zhao was walking out of the bar with a woman in his arms. If she didn't see wrong, the woman seemed to be one of the employees of the cram school. Ren Xiling couldn't help but disdain. This scumbag is really suitable for all tastes. Student, young woman, I remember this woman seems to be married. You said he is a scumbag. Lizzie replied. But at this moment, both of them opened their mouths slightly. Because at this moment, a man wearing a hat and a mask suddenly rushed towards Su Zhao. Su Zhao didn't react and was knocked to the ground. Do you have eyes? Su Zhao shouted angrily, but his face suddenly changed. Because the guy who bumped into him was holding a utility knife in his hand. The utility knife that had already pushed the blade out was now pressed against his cheek. Let's Let's talk it out. Bro, I didn't offend you, right? Su Zhao's hands trembled. The woman he brought along also screamed at the same time. At this time, there were many customers sitting in the open-air area outside the bar. At this time, they all stood up in a panic. Some were busy taking photos, some thought that this was a show to watch, and some wanted to call the police, but no one came forward to help. Scumbag! The masked man shouted, why did you kill Rongrong? Rongrong? What Rongrong? Su Zhao trembled. Bro, I don't know who you are talking about. Did you get the wrong person? Let's talk it out. Can you take the knife away first? Xiao Rongrong, did you forget? The masked man's voice was more suppressed. It sounded more like a roar, even though his voice was so low. Xiao Rongrong, I remember. Su Zhao was scared by the knife and sweated. I didn't kill her. She committed suicide by jumping off a building. The police proved it. You didn't. The masked man seemed to become agitated. You took her with you every day. Now you have another woman. You scumbag. Don't be agitated. Su Zhao panicked. Her death has nothing to do with me. I didn't do anything to her. She did it willingly. What did you do to her? The masked man suddenly pulled out the utility knife in his hand, as if he was going to stab him. Wait. I'll tell you. Su Zhao suddenly shouted at this time. The masked man was stunned and his hand froze. But at this moment, Su Zhao quickly grasped the utility knife in the masked man's hand and quickly punched the masked man's face. This punch made the masked man see stars and feel dizzy. Seeing this, Su Zhao grabbed the masked man and pinned him to the ground. The situation was reversed. You are so small. Su Zhao spat and pressed the masked man down. He lowered his head and said fiercely, How dare you touch me? You are dead. Xiao Mei, call the police. Su Zhao looked up at the woman he brought and ordered. The masked man struggled excitedly, but his body was much smaller than Su Zhao's, so he couldn't get rid of him. Let me tell you, Xiao Rongrong's death has nothing to do with me. Su Zhao sneered and leaned close to the masked man's ear. But I know what she tastes like better than you. Are you her boyfriend? Or unrequited love? But you haven't touched her, right? Let me tell you, this woman is a fickle, self-degrading, and greedy bitch who can sleep with anyone. Let me go. The masked man flapped his limbs like a wild beast. It's you. It must be you. You seduced her. You made her change. It's you. The police are coming. I don't want to talk to you. Su Zhao snorted. But let me see who you are first. I will remember your face. Don't think this is over. How dare you threaten me with a knife? When Su Zhao was about to tear off the masked man's mask and see his face, a cup flew out of nowhere and hit Su Zhao's back hard. He screamed in pain. The cup was like a stone, and it hurt so much when it hit his back. That bastard attacked me. Su Zhao looked around angrily, but the masked man got rid of him at this time. The masked man didn't look back and rushed out of the crowd. Su Zhao was so angry that his neck turned red. It was unrealistic to catch up with the masked man, and it was even more unrealistic to find out who attacked him. There were too many onlookers here. Damn. My masked man is awesome. You're awesome too, Sister Ren. Where did you learn to throw the cup? It's so accurate. When Ren Xiling and Lizzie saw that the masked man had escaped, they quickly followed him. However, the masked man directly grabbed a taxi on the road and left calmly. It seems that we can't catch up with him. Sister Ren, where's your car? Lizzie said with disappointment. Don't mention that broken car. Ren Xiling shook her head. I thought I could get some information from the masked man. Xiao Rongrong, I remember she was one of the students who committed suicide. Who is this masked man? The two women couldn't discuss, so they left with doubts. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Ding Dongxing's mind was full of just a little bit, if he didn't hesitate at that time. He had got out of the taxi, took off his mask and hat, and threw them on the nearby trash can. Now, he was walking alone on the street. He clenched his fists, and his knuckles were even a little pale. Su Zhao's words kept echoing in his mind, and every time it sounded, it made him feel worse. He instinctively didn't want to believe every word that this man said. What self-degradation! What money grubber! What fickle woman! It must be his temptation that made Rongrong like this. It must be 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 him who killed Rongrong. It must be him who abandoned Rongrong and made her commit suicide. It must be. It must be Su Zhao. I won't let you go. I won't let you go so easily. But what can you do? Just a little bit, but it's still a little bit. You can't do anything. The sharp voice of an old witch began to sound in Ding Dongxing's heart. He subconsciously looked at the glass of the shop next to the street, and looked at his reflection on the glass. He saw his own reflection looking back at him, as if it was alive. Looking at his own reflection, it was looking back at him with disdain and a cold smile. You're just a student, you can't do anything. Su Zhao is a member of society, and he knows people from all walks of life. Besides, you don't have any evidence, so you can't avenge Rongrong. You're a useless man. I'm not. Ding Dongxing looked at his own reflection and suddenly roared, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. He even crazily touched and beat the glass on the cabinet, and his reflection in the glass. I'm not. Chapter 346. The gloomy weather that had been brewing for a whole day finally came to an end when it was almost 9 o'clock at night. It was neither too heavy nor too light. It was a moderate rain. Luo Qiu opened the door of the club. There were very few pedestrians on the road when it rained, so the road naturally became deserted. It was a good time to look at the city. He was ready to go home. As long as he was in this city, he would choose to go home at this time because it was very convenient to go back and forth. But since it was a moderate rain, he planned to go home safely. But Boss Luo had to give up his plan immediately. At this moment, a person was standing outside the club in the rain, letting the rain beat on him. It was a big boy who looked to be about 17 or 18 years old. The rain washed away the hustle and bustle of the street, but it didn't wash away the smell of black soul on the boy. Luoqiu could distinguish the source of the smell. He had smelled this smell before, the smell of black soul 18. What a diligent messenger, Luoqiu thought. Luoqiu slowly returned to the lobby of the club. He knew the boy was about to come in, because he was about to see the door of the club. Make a cup of ginger tea. Luoqiu looked at the servant girl and ordered softly. That day in class, I wrote something on the eraser and planned to pass it to her, but I accidentally threw it over my head and dropped it on the ground. The teacher accidentally stepped on it. This auntie was wearing high heels and almost fell down. She and I both knew what happened, so we were very happy. He was talking about the things that happened between him and the girl. Scene after scene, it was as if it had just happened yesterday. Ding Dongxing and Xiao Rongrong. A cup of warm ginger tea didn't seem to make him feel the coldness of the rain, but these memories seemed to bring him warmth. Luoqiu was used to listening to other people's stories. He didn't care about the time to go home. When a guest needed an audience, he was always a good one. It was as if every little thing was a memory that Ding Dongxing could recall. Until he had nothing to say, and spoke of all the little memories that were hidden in his heart. Only then did he suddenly fall silent, not knowing what to do. And then what else? Ding Dongxing grabbed his hair with both hands and closed his eyes. There should be more, there should be more. Let me think, there should be more. Slap. He slammed his hands on the table at the same time. His face was ferocious and desolate. There will be many, many memories. We should have a lot of memories. It was all because of that man. It's all because of him that Rongrong left me. Leave this world. I want this man to taste the consequences. I want him to pay for what he did. I don't want him to have it easy. He looked straight at the boss of the club. There was no fear in Ding Dongxing's eyes. He was not afraid at all. Hatred had covered his eyes, and anger had also covered his reason. "Do you know that once a request is made here, it is not allowed to be changed?" Luochu said indifferently. "So before making a request, we allow our guests to think carefully." "Do you need it?" Ding Dongxing asked. After a moment of silence, Luochu said, "As far as I know, the police in this city have begun to investigate the cram school. Su Zhao, who you hate, will not be able to escape from the law. That is to say, you want him to be punished sooner or later. Guest, are you sure you want to make such a request?" "I can't wait," Ding Dongxing said in a low voice. "God knows when the police will investigate? 1 month, 2 months, or half a year. But I can't wait for even 1 day. Even if I assume that he has done something illegal, what can I do to him? Besides, even if he is arrested, what can he do? At most, he will be imprisoned. But Rongrong, after all, I can't let him have it easy." Luochu looked straight into Ding Dongxing's eyes. He felt like his body was being torn apart, but he didn't avoid it. "I see." Luoqiu nodded. "But customer, how do you intend to pay for it?" Ding Dongxing took a deep breath. He took out a box from the pocket of his clothes. The box was about the size of a palm. The moment the box was opened, a piece of bronze appeared in front of Luoqiu. Ding Dongxing said, "I want to use this. This is an heirloom of my family. It is said to be a very valuable treasure. Is it enough?" There were some words engraved on the bronze, which looked dim. Luoqiu hadn't received such a treasure for a long time. He stretched out his hand and brushed it across the bronze plate. He nodded and simply said, "You can use this as payment. Tell me what you want. I want to know whether your request is more than the value of this bronze." Ding Dongxing said without hesitation, "I want to see Su Zhao lose his reputation and suffer so much that he would rather die. Deal." In the rain, Ding Dongxing ran crazily on the street with a strange smile on his face, as if he was excited, as if he had seen what he wanted to see. He was in such a mess. "Master, you don't seem to be interested?" Yu Yi, who was tidying up the tea set, saw Luoqiu take off his mask and didn't smile. "No, I was also interested in antiques at the beginning," Luoqiu said softly. But he shook his head quickly. "That bronze is a bit interesting. But what is more interesting is that such a treasure has been used for such a purpose by the later generations." Luoqiu played with the clown mask in his hand. "It reminds me of a piece of news I saw before. In order to please the girl he liked, a child from an ordinary family didn't hesitate to spend all of his grandmother's pension. In the end, he even ran off to rob." Miss Maid said softly, "Master, do you want to say femme fatale?" Luoqiu just smiled. He opened his palm, and the account book of the club's basement appeared in his hand. The account book was opened and flipped quickly in his hand. He was looking at some information, the information of the potential customers that Black Soul number 18 had chosen all along. It seems that our witch lady really likes to use hatred to drive the arrival of potential customers. After a few minutes, Luoqiu returned the account book. "Black Soul number 18 is good at this." Yu Yi nodded. For a long time, the number of customers who came through Black Soul 18 has always been in the top 3 of all the Black Soul envoys. Hatred is indeed a good thing to stimulate customers. "I can see that." Luoqiu smiled. He had just met Black Soul number 18 a few days ago, and now she had found a new customer. Moreover, because the club was located in the same city, Ding Dongxing didn't even need to go through the form of a black card. "Before Master wakes up tomorrow, Yu Yi will check all the information about Su Zhao," Miss Maid said directly. Those were things that could be done with one's own ability, so there was no need for the master to do it through the altar. The new master's management style was a little different from the former boss. The previous boss was so busy that he could only get all the information from the altar. As for the new master, he had a lot of free time. "No need." Luoqiu waved his hand. "Let him do it." Luoqiu snapped his fingers. A figure slowly appeared on the ceiling of the club. It was Tae-Yinzi. To be exact, it was Tae-Yinzi who was hanging on the ceiling. He had been hanging here since the day Luochio came back from Russia. When the customer came, he was hidden by the boss. When the customer left, there was no need to hide. Luochio certainly didn't think this was Tae-Yinzi's hobby. The black rope that tied Tae-Yinzi was finally broken. The newbie black soul was released and immediately knelt on the ground gratefully. As an ancient person, it was normal to express gratitude in this way. Tae-Yinzi, the police have been investigating the cram school, but there seems to be no substantial progress. Go and help them. Luochio said indifferently, since the customer wants to do it as soon as possible, let's ruin Su Zhao's reputation first. Master, I won't let you down. Tae-Yinzi felt that he couldn't mess it up this time. Who knew when he would be hung next time? In the rain, Ding Dongxing finally stopped. He hid under the eaves and cried secretly. In the rain, Shen Meihuan and her son were watching TV quietly in the newly rented apartment. In the rain, he was wearing a mask and a hat, looking up at the lights of the apartment where the mother and son lived. He followed them here. After leaving the club, Luochio held an umbrella and walked in the rain. After midnight, the rain turned into a rainstorm. Chapter 347. Last night's rainstorm made the temperature in the city drop a lot. Along with the rainstorm, there seemed to be a new typhoon. This city was close to the sea, and typhoons were not new in coastal areas. But wasn't there a lot of typhoons this summer? Compared to last year, there seemed to be more. There were many rumors of floods and floods all over the country. It was all because of the deterioration of the world's natural environment. Who should pay for the destruction of nature? This kind of thing was naturally not the concern of ordinary citizens. They only cared about their livelihood. Because of last night's rainstorm, the sewers in many streets were blocked, so it was difficult to go out early in the morning. Therefore, they only needed to consider which route to change. However, it wasn't because of the traffic jam. Ma Hao's subordinates in the Criminal Investigation Department didn't leave the police station because of it. None of them were late for work since yesterday. They worked overtime. In one night, all the people in the department were dispatched to dig out all the background of Su Zhao. As for the reason, of course, it was because of some clues from sub-editor Ren. Su Zhao, according to his monthly tax income, belongs to the high-income group. His annual income should be about 1 million. A young police officer with a pair of red eyes was reporting in front of Ma Yi, but we understand that this person likes to drink, has fun, and is also fond of women. He goes to Liusi Paradise at least 5 times a month, as well as some other entertainment places. According to preliminary estimation, his monthly consumption is at least 100,000 yuan. In addition to the house he lives in now, he has 2 commercial houses, and the monthly loan is 46,800 yuan. Last month, he bought a new Mercedes-Benz with a total price of 800,000 yuan. Okay, this guy must have a financial problem, but it's none of our business. Ma Hao shook his head, but looking at the gap between his consumption and income, we can be sure that this guy must have some other gray income. But this guy is the manager of the cram school. Such a cram school shouldn't do anything to make extra money, right? By the way, we also found out that Su Zhao rented a duplex villa in Jihao International under his name. According to the security guard, many cars were often parked next to the unit. But it seems to have stopped during this period. The lights in that unit haven't been turned on for almost a week. After a pause, the young officer deduced, "We suspect that Su Zhao will do something in this rented place. But it suddenly stopped recently. It seems to be about the same time when we started to investigate the cram school." Hoarse whisperer, do you think we leaked the information? Ma Hao frowned. Do you think the people in the department will leak the news? The young police officer shook his head. Ma Hao knocked on the table for a while. There's no such thing as an impenetrable wall. The sponsor of the cram school is Dai Yukai, who is familiar with many influential people. Ma Hao didn't continue his words. For example, the leader he was talking to was a guy who liked to talk nonsense after drinking a few cups at the dinner table. There must be something fishy about that unit in Jihao International. Let two of your brothers serve it 24/7, Ma Hao said in a deep voice. You need to be patient when handling cases. You can't be anxious at all. Under the premise that there is no evidence, you can only be more patient than the other party and wait for the other party to give themselves away. But Horse Whisperer didn't expect that. He didn't have much time to wait. When the young police officer finished reporting and was about to send people out according to Ma Hao's order, a police officer on duty in the lobby of the police station came to the department. Horse Whisperer, there's a man outside. He introduced himself as Su Zhao, and he said he would turn himself in. In front of the glass of the interrogation room, Ma Hao looked up and down at Su Zhao, who was sitting in the room on the other side of the glass. Was this guy a bit abnormal? He crossed his legs and shook his head. He didn't look like a drug addict, but more like an old man who was listening to music. In fact, through the equipment in the interrogation room, this guy was really humming a tune at this moment. What did you say? Ma Hao looked at the young police officer curiously. He pointed at Su Zhao and shrugged. Hey is the name of the song this guy is humming. It's a song from an industrial heavy metal band. Ma Hao gave a start. He didn't care about industrial or agricultural. Horse Whisperer shook his head and walked directly into the room. He slammed the notebook on the table and sat down opposite Su Zhao. Su Zhao, right? I heard you want to turn yourself in? Ma Hao said in a deep voice. Who are you? Oh, Officer Ma, hello. Su Zhao sat up straight and cleared his throat. Well, you? Oh, you misheard me. I wanted to say that I came here because I committed a crime. Ma Hao didn't show any expression. He rolled his eyes at this guy, opened the notebook and grabbed a pen. He lowered his head and was ready to record. Tell me, what crime did you commit? Bribery, organized sex activities and sex with underage girls. Bribery and what else? Horse Whisperer thought he misheard and raised his head in shock. Organized sex activities and sex with underage girls. Su Zhao said seriously, Officer, did you hear me clearly? Yes. Yes, I heard you clearly. Ma Hao couldn't believe it. Is there something wrong with this guy's brain? Su Zhao, right? This is not a place to play. Do you know that every word you say will be recorded and used as evidence? Officer, I understand. I completely understand. Su Zhao nodded. I swear, what I am going to say is what I have done. Officer, I'm guilty. I'm being condemned by my conscience. I want to confess all the bad things I've done. I want to expose the evil that's hidden in the dark. I want to return the world to a bright and peaceful world. Stop. Ma Hao waved his hand. Are you a storyteller? Are you trying to fool me? I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare to trick you even if I had 100 guts. Su Zhao quickly waved his hands. Ma Hao stared at this guy for a while, then sighed. Tell me everything. Yes, yes, yes. Su Zhao let out a sigh of relief and said, First of all, we lure the students with money and grades by selecting students from cram schools. As long as the students are willing, we will have enough customers. Officer, you don't know, but students, especially female students, have always been in short supply. Listening to how Su Zhao coaxed the students to have sex, Ma Hao felt it was incredible. What were the students nowadays? Wait a minute. You said that money and material things are important. But what about grades? Ma Hao frowned. Su Zhao chuckled. Because some of our guests are the leaders of the schools in the city. It's easy to get some questions from them. They can earn money and have good grades to go back and deal with their parents. It's just a small sacrifice. Of course they're willing. Humph. You make it sound nice. Ma Hao said angrily. Those students are not mature yet. You bastard. Officer. I know what you want to say. I am not a human, I am an animal. I am here to turn myself in, okay? Ma Howd felt like he had punched a cotton ball and had no way to vent his anger. He had never seen such a cooperative guy in all his years of handling cases. Ma Yuran took a deep breath and calmed down. He said indifferently, "You've said so much, but you're just saying it. What evidence do you have to prove that you did these things?" Su Zhao quickly took out the key from his pocket and said, "Officer, this is the key to my house. There is a laptop in the closet in my room. All the evidence you want is in there. Oh right, the password is 273835. Ma Howd grabbed the key without any doubt. After thinking for a while, he stood up and said, "Wait here, we'll go and check it out right away." Then, Ma Howd pushed the door open and left. This is 2F** King Cooperative. Damn it. Half a day passed. When Ma Howd entered the interrogation room again, his face darkened. He sat down in front of Su Zhao again. Su Zhao asked directly, Howd, how is it? Have you checked it out?" Ma Howd sneered, "Yes. It can't be more clear. You did find the laptop in your house and a lot of photos. So many victims. You are good, taking photos while playing with young girls. Aren't you afraid of death?" "Hey, don't worry about the details." Su Zhao asked nervously, "Officer, will I lose my reputation this time?" "Lose your reputation?" Ma Howd sneered, "That is a light punishment. Now the evidence is conclusive. There is no need to ask. The minimum sentence is 3 years, and the maximum sentence is death." Su Zhao took a long breath and said with a relaxed face, "Then I am relieved." Saying this, Su Zhao suddenly lowered his head and knocked it on the table, then stopped moving. Ma Howd was stunned and quickly pulled him up, only to find that this guy just fell asleep. Chapter 348. Ran away. In a cafe near the police station, Ren Xiling looked at the Ma private investigator in surprise. Ma Howd said helplessly, "We went to Dai Yotsai's house on the same day, but he was gone. His wife and children didn't know where he went. They said he ran out in a hurry. We suspect that he heard the news in advance, so he ran away immediately." Ren Xiling frowned. Did Su Zhao confess? About the suicide of the students? Ma Howd shook his head. No, he didn't. He just confessed the dirty things he did in the cram school. Then he fainted, and when he woke up. Ma Howd nodded and said seriously, "When he woke up, he seemed to have forgotten what he had done. He was very surprised and even said that we had wronged him. Until we showed him the things we found in his house and the interrogation video, he looked like he had seen a ghost. He didn't believe that the person in the video was himself. He turned himself in, fainted after turning himself in, and forgot after waking up. So weird?" Ren Xiling opened her mouth. Could this kind of thing really happen? If she hadn't known Ma Howd for so many years, she would have thought that she was reading a nonsense novel. Let's not talk about Su Zhao's abnormality first. Anyway, he is now in the detention room. He can't escape. The things we found in his house can at least put him in jail for the rest of his life. Ma Howd frowned. The point is, he shouldn't have a close relationship with the students who committed suicide. We have checked his itinerary, and he happened to be on a business trip when the 2 students committed suicide. Old Ma, do you think that this guy threatened the students with the things he had, so they couldn't bear the pressure and were afraid that others would know about it? But it's impossible for 5 people to commit suicide in a row, right? You're right. Ren Xiling nodded, then shook her head, but I didn't expect that Dai Yukai and Su Zhao would be involved in this case. You've made a great contribution to the investigation. Treat me to a meal. Ma Howd sighed and said, Don't even think about it. My head is about to explode. You don't know what kind of people are buying this kind of service from Dai Yukai. This isn't as simple as a simple organization, there are many more transactions behind the scenes. I suspect that Dai Yukai is just someone else's chess piece, and there is someone else controlling everything behind the scenes. I'm afraid there's a greater interest involved. Ren Xiling asked in a low voice, Who are the customers? Ma Haud glanced at Ren Xiling and said expressionlessly, I can tell you the details of the case. Anyway, I know you won't write nonsense. But regarding this, I really can't reveal anything to you. This is an order from the higher-ups. Otherwise, how do you think Dai Yukai can run so fast? Alright. Ren Xiling nodded. Since Ma Haud also wanted to keep his mouth shut, it could only be said that there were too many things involved behind this. Sub-editor Ren also understood the principle of propriety. She sighed. But if the suicide case is not related to Dai Yukai and Su Zhao, who else could it be? By the way, have you confirmed that these 5 children were all tempted by Su Zhao to do this? Except for Gu Jiajie, the first 4 were all tempted. Ma Haud looked at the time and said, I can't talk with you anymore, I'm in a hurry. I'm going to close this cram school first. Just like the last time, let's see if we can find anything new. Ren Xiling shrugged, Go ahead, I'll pay the bill. I hope you have good news and can give justice to these children as soon as possible. Ma Haud smiled bitterly. I don't know how these children's parents feel when they know that their children did this kind of thing. Ren Xiling was silent. This was not a topic she wanted to talk about in detail. Under the iron window, Su Zhao was still frightened. His eyes were bloodshot and there were 2 big dark circles under his eyes. He had hardly slept these days. No matter how hard he scratched his head, he still couldn't understand why he had come to the police station and even said those words. He only remembered that he fell asleep after drinking the night before. When he woke up, he found himself in the interrogation room. Why did he turn himself in? Those evidence were left deliberately to guard against Dai Yukai. If Dai Yukai turned against him one day, he would have the capital to deal with Dai Yukai. As for the photos of the underage girls, he admitted that it was one of his hobbies. It wasn't that he didn't know what awaited him once these things were exposed. But it was more like a demon in his heart than a hobby. But it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Su Zhao kept asking himself this question in the detention room these days. Did he turn himself in because he couldn't stand the torture? What he had said in the interrogation video was nothing more than a fart. If he really had a conscience, he wouldn't be so painful and frightened now. Would he spend the rest of his life in prison? The rest of his life? Su Zhao looked out of the iron window, feeling like he was dreaming. He couldn't understand why he turned himself in. Why? Su Zhao knocked his head against the wall of the detention room again and again. How could this happen? His life is over. In the lobby of the club, Ding Dongxing sneered at the negotiation table near the cupboard. Then, he withdrew his gaze. Don't you want to watch it? Boss Luo asked. No need. Ding Dongxing said indifferently. Next to him, on a light screen, everything about Su Zhao in the detention room was displayed. Hearing this, Luo Qiu simply waved his hand and the light curtain disappeared. Luo Qiu said indifferently, The evidence found in his home is enough to put him in prison for the rest of his life. Guest, your request for his reputation to be completely destroyed can be considered completed. Su Zhao, on the other hand, is a typical prodigal son. Spending the rest of his life in prison is worse than death for him. Are you satisfied with this kind of pain? Ding Dongxing didn't say a word. He threw the box with the bronze plate on the table again and stood up. This is yours. Luo Qiu glanced at the box on the table and didn't touch it. He just said softly, Thank you for your patronage. You don't have to say it so nicely. Ding Dongxing said coldly, You are no different from Su Zhao. You are willing to do anything for your own interest. We are doing business, so we won't deny it. Luo Qiu said indifferently. It's good that you admitted it. Ding Dongxing sneered. Then tell me why you didn't tell me that Rongrong's death had nothing to do with Su Zhao. First of all, Luo Qiu raised his head and said slowly, Everything here is paid. We are not obliged to reveal things that you don't know. Second of all, I have already told you that the police are investigating Su Zhao's case. Luochu paused and looked at Ding Dongxing's pale face. He shook his head and said softly, "Finally, is it really that important to you whether Su Zhao is directly related to Qiao Rongrong's death? What did you say?" Ding Dongxing suddenly became agitated. He put his hands on the table and stared at Luoqiu. "Didn't you laugh very happily? Just now," Luoqiu said softly. "Didn't you laugh very happily when you saw Su Zhao in pain? At this time, are you thinking about the memories you told me? Even one?" "I." Ding Dongxing stepped back and looked at the club boss with a trace of horror. He was slightly flustered. "I don't know what you are talking about." He stepped back until he reached the door of the club. Then he pushed the door open and left without looking back. Miss Maid steadied the door, which swayed because it was pushed open. She looked at her master and whispered, "What a cheap and ugly soul. When we go shopping, we don't always find the best ingredients, right?" Chapter 349. Taiyinzi stood quietly in the lobby of the club, watching his future owner and the boss of the club playing with the newly collected bronze piece. He wisely didn't make any sound. Luoqiu stopped after playing with it for about 10 minutes. "Taiyinzi, you did a good job this time. Although it's a bit rough, it's quite efficient." Taiyinzi hurriedly became modest. This was the first time he received such a positive praise from the boss since he became Black Soul. He was very happy. He felt that there was almost no place for him to stay in this club. Even Qin Chuyu, the bitch, seemed to have a higher status than him. The feeling of being recognized reminded Tai Yinzi of the days when he first entered the mountain gate more than 500 years ago and was praised by his master among many senior brothers and sisters. "What the hell? Not counting the 500 years I was trapped here, I was a cultivator who had cultivated for more than 60 years. How could I have such vanity? Quickly praise me more, Master. After this period of time, I have deeply realized my own shortcomings. From now on, I will definitely work harder and do my best for the business of the shop. I will not let down the master's trust and expectations of me." Okay. Luoqiu glanced at this old guy. How to say it? At the beginning, I didn't seem to have any expectations. I just wanted to study the transformation process of Black Soul, and happened to have you as a suitable material. Well, I'm looking forward to your performance. Boss Luo nodded. Taiyinzi took a deep breath, and deeply bowed to Miss Maid, saying respectfully, "Thank you, Miss Yu Yi, for your guidance during this period of time. Taiyinzi will keep it in mind." Yu Yi was also a bit surprised. She slightly opened her mouth, but soon it turned into a smile and just nodded. "Master, I'll go out to find a suitable customer now. I'll definitely satisfy you next time. Go ahead." Luoqiu waved his hand. Taiyinzi turned into a black wind and whirled out of the club's lobby. At this time, Qin Chu slowly opened her eyes, saying indifferently, "Born rebellious, it's hard for him to achieve great things." After saying that, this female cultivator who only knew to meditate all day closed her eyes again. Luoqiu heard her words, but didn't care much. Whether Taiyinzi was rebellious or not, it didn't matter to the club. Whether he rebelled or not, he was here, under Luoqiu's eyes. "You don't need to cook for me tonight." Luoqiu handed the bronze piece to Yu Yi, and asked her to put it in the basement first. Then he said, "I have to entertain the guests tonight." Of course, it didn't refer to the guests in the club. And of the guest, Renziling said that she would invite Lizzie to have a home-cooked meal. This meal was invited by Renziling to thank Lizzie for her help this time. At the dinner table, Renziling raised the red wine glass, to uncover the dirty things behind this cram school and eradicate a cancer in the society. Cheers. Luoqiu hadn't seen this woman's smile for a long time. In his impression, it seemed to have been several years. At that time, she would always be this happy, whenever her father caught a criminal, or cracked down on some evil. Yes, indeed. Lizzie nodded frequently. Her mouth was stuffed with the freshly fried fillet of lonely fish, but her words were not vague at all, But it's a pity that we didn't find out the case of the student falling off the building. Renziling also felt pity. Yes, the cram school probably won't reopen. I think the mysterious teacher will still hide. Officer Ma is still investigating, isn't he? If someone really did something bad, he won't be able to escape. Lizzie comforted. You're right. Renziling adjusted her mood. Let's be happy today. Let's not talk about this. Let's talk about a happy thing. Boy, do you remember Louis Yun? The girl from Louis Village? Luochio gaped. Yes. Renziling smiled. Today, the girl sent me an email, saying that she will come to our school next week. Really? Luochio nodded, smiling. That's good. Yes, I hope she can start a new life. Renziling shook the red wine glass in her hand. Her school happens to be your school. I promise to give her a good welcome when she comes. By the way, she's your junior sister. I think you won't refuse to be her guide, right? Luochio. Boss Luo had already dropped out of school. He just didn't say it out. Of course, he didn't want to expose the fact that he dropped out. Luochio nodded, agreeing casually. He thought that the girl wouldn't say anything. Why did you agree so quickly? Renziling gave a start. I thought you would think it troublesome and refuse directly, so I prepared a lot of words to say. Well, I refuse. F***CK. Do you want to die? Can't you give me some face? There are guests here, don't you want to be alone? Let's eat. Luochio didn't want to talk to her, putting some food on Renziling's plate. Thank you. Renziling raised her eyebrows, showing a complacent look. Was this a family? Lizzie looked at the conversation between the two people. Some things that she couldn't feel seemed to have started to spread at the dinner table from the beginning. It made her feel a little overwhelmed instinctively. Lizzie, why did you stop? Don't you like to eat? Why, it's not to your taste. Renziling asked after looking at the food at this moment. Lizzie quickly waved her hand and said, No. Sister Ren, your family's Luochio's food is really good. For so many years, I've only eaten a few dishes with this taste. I just don't want to eat it all at once. Taste? Renziling gave a start. What kind of taste? Lizzie held the bowl in her hand, showing a trace of nostalgia, and said softly, The taste that can make people feel warm after eating it. This. Renziling gave a start, took a bite, chewed for a while and said, Is it because of the chili? Lizzie didn't know why, but she laughed out. You're so nervous. Renziling shook her head and said casually, Eat more if you like it. You can come to eat more often. Anyway, you're alone in this city and have no relatives. You don't have to be polite. Just treat me as your home. Lizzie nodded her head gently. But she knew that she wouldn't come often. Where is Lizzie's hometown? Luochio suddenly asked at this time. Lizzie thought for a while and said softly, It's a very cold place where it often snows. Renziling was stunned. Lizzie, I remember your resume says that you were born in Hainan, right? That's just the census register. Lizzie shook her head and blinked. But it's not the place where I grew up. If there's a chance, I'll tell you. Where is it? So mysterious? Lizzie said softly, Isn't it good to be mysterious? If I'm a little mysterious, maybe you'll remember me. What are you talking about? You're talking as if you'll disappear suddenly. Renziling shook her head and said, Well, let's not talk about it. Let's eat. Lizzie said, Okay. It took a long time to finish the dinner. When leaving, Lizzie declined Renziling's request to send her back and went downstairs alone. She was used to being alone most of the time. He could eat by himself, sleep by himself, and stay in that small rented room by himself. He could also stay there by himself and not go out for half a month if he had nothing to do, but he would not stay in the same place for too long. Finally, she turned around and looked at the floor where Renziling's house was located. Looking at the dim light that seemed to bring a little warmth to the cold night sky because of the recent rain, Lizzie said to herself, Why don't we stay here for a while? She suddenly smiled and took out an orange-flavored lollipop from the bag. She put it in her mouth and opened her hands, walking alone on the white line of the street. She hummed a little tune that no one knew the origin of. She suddenly jumped a few steps on one foot, like a child playing a jumping game. She thought that not many people would remember her. She was alone. Chapter 350. Rensselaer was humming a song while washing the dishes. It was the song "Give the World to You" that Lucio had heard before. It had been a few months, but Rensselaer was still worried about her classmate and good friend in college. Still no news. Lucio asked suddenly when he opened the fridge to get a bottle of mineral water. News. Rensselaer gave a start. She stopped and looked at Lucio with doubt. Lucio said softly, "I'm talking about 2J. Isn't that the song that made her famous?" "No." Rensselaer shook her head and sighed. "Boss, I'm just humming a song. Why do you think so much? What's wrong with your brain?" "Water, protein, fat, basically the same as yours." Rensselaer rolled her eyes. "You know I'm not talking about this." "Oh, you're so careful. Why don't you think about it again? Did we miss something in this cram school? Like old Ma said, a bystander's view may reveal something." She grabbed Luocio's arm with such an earnest look, even ignoring the fact that she was washing the dishes and her gloves were stained with foam. Boss Luo slapped her hand away with a disgusted look. He washed his hands at the faucet and then walked to the living room with the cup. Rensselaer chased after him from the kitchen, saying with an aggrieved look, "Can you not be so disgusted?" "That rumor." Lucio sat down and turned on the TV to watch the news. "Say it again." Rensselaer took off her gloves and sat down. She thought, if there is such a teacher, as long as you can find one, no matter how bad your grades are, you can improve. And if your grades are good, you can go to the next level. What's the reaction of the students? I feel like he's doubtful. Although some students know about this rumor, the cram school students don't seem to be interested in it. Of course, we know about it now because some students have better ways to improve their grades. I'm talking about the cram school's secret trading of test papers. Rensselaer shook her head and muttered, "If there's a teacher who has this kind of ability, shouldn't he be famous long ago? Even if he didn't want to show off, he must have taught a lot of students with good grades, right? No matter how low-key these things are, they can still spread, right? Then why are there still such rumors?" Lucio continued to ask. Rensselaer was stunned. She frowned and said, "That's right. Generally, this kind of rumor is just a rumor. Normally, he would just laugh it off and not talk about it anymore, right? But it's strange. This rumor seems to have been around for a long time. It's as if someone is making it popular." "Why do you want to make it hot?" "Why? Of course, it's to draw attention to it." Rensselaer suddenly thought of something. She said, "The main character of the rumor is the mysterious teacher. No one knows who this teacher is. Say, if something were to happen, for example, if the police were to investigate, it would be easy for them to investigate the teacher's identity. Did someone deliberately lead us to investigate the teacher's matter? What's the motive? Trying to reduce the possibility of being investigated." Rensselaer suddenly looked at Lucio and said, "It's said that the teacher can improve students' grades, so he must be very experienced in teaching. Even if he doesn't have such experience, he must be someone like Su Zhao who can get the test papers. Our investigation is also in the same direction. But this teacher may be someone who doesn't know how to teach." Lucio didn't say anything. He just listened to Rensselaer quietly. He may know nothing about teaching, but he has access to all the students' information. Sure enough, he is one of the employees of the cram school. Rensselaer recalled all the details. There are many offices in the cram school. Except for the employees, no one else has the key to the office. The police also checked all the surveillance routes when they copied the cram school. No one has quietly entered other offices. As Rensselaer thought about it, she reached out her hand as if she was going to pick up the teacup. However, her teacup was not beside her, but she still touched it subconsciously. Boss Luo gently moved the teacup to her hand with a little affection. Subeditor Rin didn't notice that she successfully picked up the teacup. After taking a sip, she held the teacup and meditated. Although Su Zhao has never admitted that he has anything to do with the student's death, Dai Yudai and Dai Yudai did it. However, he and Dai Yukai did such a thing. The police have reason to believe that the two of them used the evidence they had on the student to blackmail her. In the end, it led to the student's fear and immaturity, so she chose to commit suicide. Luochio, do you think this rumor is deliberately made up by the real criminal in order to escape? Ren Xiling raised her head abruptly. Let's assume that this person knew about the collusion between Su Zhao and Dai Yukai, so he created this rumor in advance. His purpose was to escape from the situation as a last resort, so that no one would suspect his existence. After all, the cram school incident has been investigated. This kind of scandal involves so many people, and even some officials. Luochu said indifferently, is there such a person who is not familiar with teaching and is not even a teacher and can clearly grasp the student's information? There is. There is such a person who can get the student's qualifications openly and even not be suspected. And I've seen her. Ren Xiling took a deep breath. The receptionist at the front desk. All the student's information is written by her. She is probably the person who knows the student's information better than anyone else. Now thinking about it, she even knows the time when Su Zhao and Dai Yukai appear. She is also in charge of serving tea. If she heard something occasionally, F***ck, this receptionist is getting more and more suspicious. Boy, you have helped me a lot this time. Subeditor Ren was so excited that she suddenly held Boss Luo's face, intending to kiss him on the cheek. She didn't expect that when she kissed him, it was cold. Boss Luo used the mineral water bottle to block the woman's invasion. What the F***ck? I'm just rewarding you, and you're complaining? Ren Xiling was stunned. Luochu said indifferently, forget about this kind of reward. If you really want to thank me, please continue to wash the dishes. Don't forget about it and leave it until tomorrow morning. I will wash the dishes. That's what my darling reminded me of last night. In a cafe near the police station. This was a cafe that had been open for more than 10 years. It was also the place where Ren Xiling met the people in the police station from the beginning. Luochu had more memories when his father was still alive. Ma Haud was silent for a while, and then said slowly, in fact, about this receptionist, we have included her in the investigation at the beginning. As Luochu said, she was on the tracking list of people who had access to the student's information. He then shook his head and said, it's just that before the investigation started, Su Zhao suddenly turned himself in like a lunatic. But this hypothesis is quite likely. Except for the fact that there is no way to determine her motive, the suspicion is, okay, I'll ask someone to investigate this receptionist as soon as possible. At this moment, Ma Haud's phone rang. After receiving the call, he hurried to pay the bill, saying that the leader wanted to see him. Let me introduce you, this is Wang Yuechuan from the province. Old Lu, the leader of the police station, introduced a young man in a suit to Ma Haud. He was about 27 or 28 years old. Ma Haud had seen a lot of people. It was easy for him to see a trace of arrogance from this young man. However, a person who could work in the provincial police station at such a young age probably had enough capital to be proud. This is Ma Haud, the most experienced person in our station. Thanks to him, this place is so quiet. Old Lu said with a smile. Really? Wang Yuechuan said indifferently, but I heard that several students committed suicide here in a row. The cram school had to ask the provincial bureau for help. Earlier, there were several cases of murder. Even a child skeleton was dug out from the nearby university. Can you call that quiet? Old Lu was embarrassed. He cleared his throat and looked at Ma Haud. Comrade Wang is here to thoroughly investigate the cram school. Ma Haud, you have to cooperate with him. Don't be lazy, okay? Chapter 351. Su Zhao, Dai Yukai, The students and staff of the cram school are all here. Ma Haud put a thick stack of documents in front of Wang Yuechuan, and then said, "Anything else?" "No." Wang Yuechuan said, "Is this room usually quiet?" Ma Haud glanced at this place and said, "It's quiet. It's usually used for meetings, so of course it's quiet now." "That's okay." Wang Yuechuan nodded. "I'll just read the documents here. If I need anything, I'll inform you." "Whatever you like." Ma Iran shrugged and left the conference room. Of course, he closed the door with a little force. Outside the door, a group of young police officers hurriedly walked to the side of the private investigator and asked curiously, "Ma Iran, who is this guy? He seems to be very arrogant. More than arrogant. I saw him walk in with his eyes wide open. He didn't even look at us." Ma Haud snorted, "Are you gossips? Don't you have a job? Are you all free? Do you want to patrol the street?" The group of young police officers immediately dispersed. Ma Haud went back to his room and opened the curtains. He could see the situation in the conference room. Ma Iran smoked while looking at Wang Yuechuan's back. Time passed very quickly. "It's been almost 2 hours. Ma Haud hammered his waist and found that Wang Yuechuan didn't move for a long time. He couldn't help but feel surprised. This guy was really serious. Suddenly, Wang Yuechuan stood up and opened the door of the conference room and waved to Ma Haud's office. Ma Iran, who was smoking and playing Minesweeper on the computer, was stunned. "My record? Almost, what's the matter? Comrade Wang Yuechuan." Ma Yi tried to make his voice sound less bitter. "My record?" Wang Yuechuan walked to the table in the conference room and pulled out a file. He opened it and said, "Officer Ma, although the forensic department determined that the 5 students all committed suicide, why didn't you suspect them because they were all cram school students? Isn't it already under investigation?" Ma Haud said calmly. Wang Yuechuan glanced at it indifferently, nodded, and then said, "The person who can get the students' information, the person who spread the rumor, this stalker list is circled by you, right?" Is there a problem?" "No, this is a good circle." Wang Yuechuan nodded and said, "However, we can make it smaller. Let's not talk about the motive. Why did Su Zhao suddenly turn himself in? Have you ever thought that the criminal deliberately made up such a rumor to mislead you? I'm not a teacher. For example, this." Wang Yuechuan turned to a page in the file, on which there was a photo of a person, the receptionist of the cram school, Zhao Ru. Isn't this the same as little Luo Qiu's inference?" Ma Haud was surprised and said subconsciously. This kind of meaningless behavior made him shut up very quickly. But Wang Yuechuan had heard him. He frowned slightly. "Who is little Luo Qiu? Is he from the bureau?" "No, he is one of my nephews." Ma Haud shook his head and said, "Is he from our system?" Wang Yuechuan asked again. Ma Haud could only shake his head. Wang Yuechuan suddenly gave him a feeling of a viper, which was frighteningly sensitive. He even knew what this guy would say next, so he said, "Don't worry, I didn't reveal any information about the cram school. I know the rules. But in the end, we need to be flexible when investigating a case, right? I'm just looking for a bystander to liven up my thoughts. This kid is also a family member of our system. His father used to be a member of our bureau, but he died in the line of duty a few years ago. I don't care about the dead, and I'm not interested in what kind of person his father was. Dying in the line of duty can only prove that this person did his duty as a police officer, but I don't think his family members can have any privileges. What's more, he didn't protect himself in the line of duty. Obviously, his ability as a police officer is not good enough." Wang Yuechuan said expressionlessly, "As for you, Officer Ma, as a police officer, I doubt your ability if you still rely on an outsider even if you have done a good job." Ma Haud couldn't control his temper after hearing this. He was not afraid of God. When he was unhappy, he could directly confront the leaders of the bureau. But in his heart there was still something sacred that couldn't be violated. With a sullen face, he approached Wang Yuechuan and said in a low voice, "What do you know? Do you know what Brother Luo is like? Do you know how many people he has arrested? Do you know that when we were investigating a case, you were just a kid wearing open crotch pants? What makes you say that his ability is not good enough? Officer Ma, according to your age, when you started investigating a case, I was indeed just a kid," Wang Yuechuan said indifferently, "but at least, when I'm investigating a case, I don't hide in my room to smoke or play computer games. I'm just livening up my thoughts, do you understand? I don't have any opinion on your way of thinking." Wang Yuechuan gently tapped the document in his hand. "I'm just giving a suggestion, and I hope you can accept it. If I offended you, I'm sorry, I'm a straightforward person. As for this Brother Luo you mentioned, I'll take some time to look at his information. If I'm wrong, I'll apologize to you. But I always think that a police officer who can't protect himself is not a good police officer." "You." Ma Hao took a deep breath to control his emotions. "Young man, there's nothing wrong with being arrogant. I hope you can let me appreciate you until the end. And I also hope that you're a good police officer who can protect himself at any time." "I will," Wang Yuechuan said indifferently. Ma Yiran took the document and walked out of the conference room without saying anything. Since there was no common language between him and this guy, he didn't want to communicate with him except for work. Before leaving the station, Ma Hao shook his head and couldn't help thinking, "But it's so annoying, this guy will suffer sooner or later. Hey, find out where Zhao Ru lives for me." He quickly made a phone call. Now that the provincial government had assigned someone to follow up on the matter behind the cram school, Ma Ili felt that what he needed to do was to investigate the 5 suicide cases. Although those students had done something wrong, they shouldn't have died like this. Ma Yiran just thought that he needed to seek justice for the victims. On the 29th, 9 o'clock in the evening, get on the 3rd intersection next to the old station. 2 seats. Here's the receipt. Pay the deposit first. Shen Meihuan quickly gave the man some deposit and took the receipt. Then she lowered her head and walked away quickly. She thought that it was better for her to leave the city as soon as possible. Today, when she turned on the phone and checked the caller ID and text messages, she knew that Gu Feng had reported her missing. She couldn't appear again like this, and she couldn't let others know that her son was still alive. This was a pheasant car out of the province. She didn't need to register with her ID card to buy a seat. She had to start over somewhere else, just like when she left that family and came to this city with her son. He wrapped himself in his clothes. After the rainstorm, it was still drizzling and a little cold. Shen Meihuan suddenly turned around and looked behind her. Other than knowing that Gu Feng had reported the case, there was another reason why she was in a hurry to leave. She had a feeling that someone was following her these past few days, making her feel inexplicably uneasy. She didn't know who was following her. But when she turned around, she didn't see anyone. Chapter 352. For her, life was very simple, or it was always the same. Go to work, get off work. Smile, silence. Go home. For Zhao Ru, if she had to describe her life with a color, it would be the color of the wall that had been there for decades. But apparently she was a fastidious person. In this rented apartment, which was less than 10 square meters, there were many places that were fastidious. The wallpaper was newly arranged by himself. Although it was old-fashioned, the floor was spotless. Although it looked rusty, it didn't make a harsh sound when it was pushed open. Presumably, there were many potholes left on the walls of this small room due to lack of maintenance, but they were all covered up with some simple decorations. At this moment, she was cooking for herself. There was no kitchen here, but she could still make a space for cooking if she put in some effort. But when she was cutting vegetables, she suddenly heard the sound of knocking on the door. Theoretically, no one should have come to look for her at this time of lunch. "Are you Mr. Ma?" When she opened the door, Zhao Ru was surprised to see one of the students of the cram school. 2 days ago, she had also learned of Mr. Ma's other identity. Yes, she knew his identity. 2 days ago, he came to the cram school with a search warrant with a team of police officers. Oh, you are Officer Ma. Zhao Ru opened the door. What can I do for you? But obviously, she didn't consider letting this undercover police officer join the cram school before he made such a request. Well, we have some questions for you, Miss Zhao. Ma Hao smiled. However, as a seasoned police officer, he had already sensed that the other party had vaguely adopted a defensive posture. He glanced over Zhao Ru. The space inside was not large, so he easily saw a corner of a suitcase on the ground, which seemed to be opened. Ma Hao said indifferently, "Are you cooking? Did I disturb you?" "Nothing." Zhao Ru nodded, subconsciously grasping the necklace pendant around her neck. It was an ordinary, simple and crude black crystal pendant. Ma Hao suddenly felt a little absent-minded. He subconsciously pinched the space between his eyebrows, feeling a little tired. Zhao Ru continued, "Anyway, I'm alone. What else do you want to ask, Officer Ma? I remember that the last time you came, I already gave you a detailed answer. Is there anything I missed? Is it convenient to go in?" Ma Hao suddenly asked. Zhao Ru said indifferently, "Please wait a moment, I have to tidy up the room." "I understand. I'll wait." Ma Hao nodded. For a single woman to rent a small single room, there must be a lot of content inside. Of course, Ma felt that it was better to avoid them. Zhao Ru closed the door and then opened it again. However, she asked Ma Hao to take off his shoes. Obviously, she was a clean girl, Ma Hao thought. The suitcase was no longer on the ground. Instead, it was closed and placed against the wall. "Miss Zhao Ru, how long have you lived alone?" "Officer Ma, do I have to answer this kind of question?" "Nothing, I'm just curious." Ma Hao shrugged and said, "Well, Miss Zhao, the police are looking for Dai Yukai. I don't know if he has looked for you in the past 2 days, or if you have heard any news about him. Don't get me wrong, we don't suspect you. We just want to tell you as a matter of routine. After all, you are his acquaintance." Zhao Ru was stunned and let go of the pendant. She thought for a while and shook her head. "Boss Dai? I don't know. I'm not familiar with him. Besides, I'm just a receptionist. How can I be familiar with the big boss?" Ma Hao nodded. "Well, I'm just here to inform you. Miss Zhao, if you have any news, please tell us immediately." Zhao Ru smiled. "I know, Officer Ma. Oh, I forgot to pour tea for you." "Oh, it's okay." Ma Hao said casually. "I'm leaving now. I have to go somewhere else. I'm just passing by. Sorry to disturb you." "Let me walk you out." Zhao Ru nodded with a smile. Ma Hao went downstairs and walked to the car. The young policeman in charge of driving asked curiously, "Ma, did you find anything?" Ma Hao frowned and said, "I saw her suitcase was open before I came in. Then she put it away when she went in. This woman's house is very clean. In fact, there is no need for her to keep me away. Well, this Zhao Ru may want to leave. You call back and ask someone to check the records of all the stations and airports." "Got it." Ma Hao glanced at the rearview mirror and pointed to the front. "Drive the car to the front and then come back. We'll get off the car and ask someone who knows Zhao Ru. This woman is still watching us. She's so careful. It seems that there is something wrong." The young policeman also glanced at the rearview mirror. Ma Hao suddenly pinched his eyebrows and shook his head. "Ma Hao, are you tired?" The young police officer joked. "Could it be that you're tired from staring at the comrade from the provincial bureau today?" He had been following Ma Hao for some time. He knew that Ma Hao seldom opened the curtains. "Stop talking nonsense. Just drive." Ma Hao rubbed his eyes and said impatiently. The car hadn't gone far when the young police officer suddenly said, "Hey, Ma, isn't that the son of Brother Luo that you always talk about?" Ma Hao found that it was indeed Luochio. Luochio was sitting alone at the bus stop with a bag of things. "Wait for me." Ma Hao got off the car. Luocio took off his headphones and turned around when he felt someone patting his back. He showed a surprised expression. Uncle Ma, why are you here? I happened to pass by while I was working on a case. I saw you, so I came over to call you. Ma Hao smiled and said, What about you? Why are you here? Don't you have class? There is no class today. Luocio said casually. I heard that there is a good fruit market nearby, so I came to buy some fresh durians. Ma Hao sat down and laughed. No wonder I smelled a fragrance from afar. Xiling likes to eat durians the most. You are so considerate. Don't you like to eat it too? Luocio said softly and took out a box of peeled and packed durians from the bag. You are still working on a case at this time. You probably haven't eaten yet. Eat this. I won't be polite. Ma Hao gladly took the box and opened it without hesitation. He ate a piece of it. Sweet. Fragrant. I will buy one later. Ma Hao showed a satisfied look and stretched, and I feel refreshed all of a sudden. I was a little dizzy just now. I am really hungry, right? Luocio, your food came at the right time. He seemed to have just taken a shower. He felt refreshed all of a sudden. The tiredness and even the nausea in the car disappeared at once. Really? That's good. Luocio smiled and stood up. The car is here. I have to go now. Oh, come to my house for dinner when you are free. I will ask your aunt to cook your favorite braised lion's head in brown sauce. In the car, before closing the door, Boss Luo just turned around and nodded slightly. Ma, we have also asked Zhao Ru's landlord. This woman has no friends. She seldom goes out except for work. It seems that no one has seen her with a boyfriend. We have also asked Xiao Lu, another receptionist of the cram school. Zhao Ru almost never talks about personal matters during working hours. She is very serious about her work. She often stays to complete the receptionist's work after work. We have checked the street CCTV near Zhao Ru's apartment. We found that she went out last month on the 2nd, 17th, 20th, and the 6th of this month. She didn't come back until 12 o'clock. When he heard this, Ma Hao was stunned. Number 2, number 17. 20th? 6th of this month? Yes, it's the same time when the students fell off the building. At the same time, a policeman rushed over and said directly, Ma, we have found it. Zhao Ru did buy a train ticket to Yunnan. But when we checked her ID records, we found that she was not born in Yunnan. She has no relatives in Yunnan. When did she buy it? 3 days ago. Isn't that the day when we copied the cram school? Ma Hao frowned. When will she leave? The train leaves at 5 o'clock this afternoon. There are less than 70 minutes left. The policeman frowned. Ma, what do you think we should do? Ma Hao stood up immediately. What do you mean by what should we do? Just find an excuse to stop the person from leaving first. If she really leaves the city, it will be troublesome to find her in the future. She bought a train ticket on the same day. This woman is getting more and more suspicious. I'm afraid that she has done something wrong. Ma Hao didn't even smoke at this time. He just felt that his whole body was full of energy after eating a box of durian at noon. He was still full of energy until now. The policemen hurriedly prepared the car and were ready to leave. Wang Yuechuan, who stayed in this department, only glanced at them indifferently. After that, he did not move and continued to sit alone in the conference room. He took a moving blackboard and pasted a lot of pictures on it. He drew intricate lines as if he was thinking about something. Before getting on the car, Ma made a phone call secretly. Hello, is that my wife? I won't come back for dinner tonight. Did you make soup? I'll come back later. I promised to drink it up. Oh, if you have time, you can go to Xinfeng Road. I heard that there is a fruit market. The durians there are good. Okay, I'm getting on the car. Ma happily got on the car and drove off. To be continued. Chapter 353. The train to Yunnan Dali is about to start. Passengers who have bought tickets, please go to platform 13. Please take your belongings with you, please. Zhao Ru lifted her suitcase and stood up from the chair in the waiting hall. Gashi habitually looked at her surroundings and prepared to walk to the platform. However, she quickly stopped and walked in another direction expressionlessly. Among the crowd, she saw a man whom she had met a few hours ago. Of course, there were several other people beside him. Their eyes were obviously different from those of ordinary passers-by. Therefore, Zhao Ru could easily infer that these people were the same passers-by she knew. They were all police officers. Zhao Ru walked towards the washroom in the opposite direction expressionlessly. She walked at a leisurely pace. The more abnormal she was, the more she would attract the attention of these falcon-like guys. Zhao Ru walked into the washroom and came out after a while. Looking at the back of those people, Zhao Ru smiled. She glanced at the train ticket in her hand and threw it into the trash can. Apparently, she didn't want to get on the train. But when she turned around, the police officer with a round belly was right in front of her. "Miss Zhao Ru, where are you going? Why didn't you mention it at noon?" "Officer Ma, do you police officers even care about private activities?" Zhao Ru said indifferently. But when she looked back slightly, she realized that someone was already approaching her from behind. She still said calmly, "Officer Ma, may I know why you're here to look for me?" "It's nothing. It's just that there are some things that we would like to consult you about. We would like to invite you to come back and chat with us." "Officer Ma, I'm afraid I can't get on the train." Zhao Ru shook her head and said, "Besides, I know that even police officers can't take people away casually." Ma Haud shrugged his shoulders. He had a lot of experience dealing with this kind of wording, and the other party couldn't do anything to him. He took a sip of the Coke he bought on the way and said indifferently, "We suspect that you have hidden dangerous things in your suitcase. Can you let us check it?" "Officer, you have no evidence. How can you say that?" Zhao Ru frowned. Ma Haud said indifferently, "That's why I said I was suspicious. Why don't you just let us check it out? Don't worry, we still have female comrades. You don't mind if a female comrade comes to search, right? Miss Zhao, please cooperate with us." A woman in casual clothes approached. She held an identification card in her hand and showed her identity. "This is the ladies' room. I think it should be very convenient." Zhao Ru glanced at the people around her. Except for Ma Haud and the woman in plain clothes, there were several other people around. She nodded and smiled. "All right then, but it's best to be quick." When Zhao Ru turned around and walked towards the women's washroom, the woman in plain clothes followed her. However, Zhao Ru suddenly turned around with a spray in her hand. She sprayed the policewoman's face with the spray and pushed her towards Ma Haud. Then she tried to escape in a hurry. Unexpectedly, she had only taken a few steps when she suddenly staggered and fell to the ground. It turned out that her heel was hit by something, a cola can. Seeing Zhao Ru on the ground, several people hurried forward and held her down. Ma Haud walked over with the policewoman whose eyelids were injured. "I'm good at throwing cans, right? I learned it from a good friend of mine." "Miss Zhao Ru, you attacked a police officer for no reason. Please come back with us and tell us the truth." Zhao Ru struggled for a while and found that she couldn't get rid of them. She narrowed her eyes and didn't speak. She didn't speak on the way. Her hands were held by the two policemen. It was unusually quiet all the way out of the railway station. The passengers here came and left in a hurry. Soon people forgot that there was a police arrest here. This kind of thing was very common in the railway station. People were used to it. Who would want to take a look at it? But in the crowd, two figures stopped just like that. It was a man and a woman. They were not travelers but people with long lives. The woman squatted down slowly and picked up a small necklace on the ground. She glanced at it and handed it to the man. This was the necklace that Zhao Ru pulled off when she was caught by the policeman. She said, "Master, it should be the pendant on the necklace that made Mr. Ma abnormal." "Well, it's a bit familiar. Have I seen it before?" "Master, do you remember the black diamond in Lu Eng's house? Although the energy in this pendant is much weaker, It should be from the same source. Lu Zixing. He nodded. Of course, it was because he thought of the mansion and the story of the 3 generations. Luoqiu put the pendant back in the servant girl's hand. Before leaving, he said, "This is interesting. I should ask Zhao Ru how she got the pendant." In front of the mirror in the interrogation room, Ma Haud had been looking at Zhao Ru for a long time, and so did the policemen around him. Normally, prisoners would be uneasy. No matter how hard they tried to hide it, their uneasiness and anxiety could still be detected from some of their subtle movements. But obviously, this woman didn't. From the beginning, she just sat there with her eyes closed, motionless, like a wax figure. But it made the people who were looking at her uncomfortable. "I'll meet this woman." Ma Haud took a deep breath, pushing the door and walking into the room on the other side of the mirror. "Miss Zhao Ru, do you know what we found in your suitcase?" Ma Haud asked directly. But Zhao Ru didn't open her eyes. Her eyelids didn't even move, as if she didn't hear it. Ma Haud raised his voice. "We found a lot of photos on your laptop." "Do you know what I mean?" Zhao Ru still didn't respond. Ma Haud snorted. "In addition, there are some photos on your mobile phone. I don't need to tell you the time, right? They are the photos of the scene of the students who committed suicide by jumping off a building. Good job, Miss Zhao Ru, you arrived at the scene earlier than us, and the photos are so clear." "Officer Ma, what do you want to say?" Zhao Ru opened her eyes slowly. Ma Haud suddenly pounded the table, like the thunder god. "Tell me, how did you force these students to commit suicide? Did you use the photos in your hands to blackmail them? Where's the evidence?" "Evidence?" Ma Haud shouted. "Those photos in your laptop, except for the dead ones, there are other illegal activities of the students. Do you dare to say that you didn't take those photos secretly? And why did you go to the scene? We have checked the CCTV of the streets around you. You usually don't go out. Why did you go out at night?" Zhao Ru smiled and said indifferently, "Well, Officer Ma, you have checked so much and found me so quickly. I really admire your ability." She sighed and said indifferently, "I admit that I did come into contact with these students, and I did threaten them. But I just asked them for some money. I don't know why they committed suicide. Let's put it this way, they were afraid of being found out by others and couldn't bear the pressure. Nowadays, students are too weak to bear the pressure." "You dare to say that you didn't force them to commit suicide?" Ma Haud said angrily. "Then why did you come to their house before they died? That was the time of the transaction. Is it always so coincidental? You threaten one and then another one commits suicide? I secretly followed them and took pictures of this kind of thing for the sake of money. Since I didn't get the first one, of course, I have to take the second one." Zhao Ru shrugged. "I can only say that I'm unlucky." "Officer, didn't you prove that they all committed suicide? You can say that I blackmailed them, but please don't say that I killed them. This was the most troublesome thing for them. They knew that Zhao Ru was the one behind the scenes, but they couldn't find any evidence to prove that she forced the students to commit suicide. If the truth was the same as what she said, the students committed suicide because of fear. In short, the court always needed definite evidence. 5 lives. These were 5 human lives. Don't you have any burden at all? Are you cold-blooded? It's easy to say. Officer Ma. Zhao Ru said indifferently, "Why 5 lives? Do you want to make a false case?" Chen Yuli, Zhou Mingxian, Xiao Rongrong, Li Hao, Gu Jiajie. Ma Haud pounded the table angrily. "Didn't these 5 students commit suicide because of your blackmail?" "Officer, I admit that I blackmailed the first 4 students. But I repeat, their deaths have nothing to do with me. Besides, the last one you mentioned has nothing to do with me. I didn't blackmail this person." "How dare you say that? Isn't Gu Jiajie also a student of the cram school?" Zhao Ru sneered. "Didn't you check my stuff? Did you find any information about this student? Besides, since I admitted that I blackmailed him, I won't lie. I don't know why the last student you mentioned died. You. Ma Howd took a deep breath and said, "Continue to sit down. We will definitely pry your mouth open." Ma, I've checked the information in Zhao Ru's notebook. After comparing the information in Zhao Ru's notebook with the information in Su Zhao's house, we didn't find any information about Gu Jiajie. He shouldn't have participated in the cram school. And Zhao Ru's mobile phone didn't have any photos of the dead students. Ma Howd was stunned, and what? On the night of Gu Jiajie's death, the surveillance camera didn't show Zhao Ru leaving. Ma Howd frowned and said, Could it be that the child really committed suicide? Chapter 354. In the office, a group of policemen were discussing Zhao Ru's case. "This woman is too cunning," the policewoman whose eyes were hurt by the spray at the train station said angrily. "She knew that she couldn't escape, so she confessed directly. She knew that the sentence for blackmail was not heavy, so she avoided the serious ones. Yes, the main victims are all dead. We can't find any evidence of Zhao Ru talking with them. She can say whatever she wants. If she asks us to defend her, she will definitely hold on to this point." Another police officer punched his own palm and said bitterly, "This is the most annoying situation." Ma Howd rubbed his forehead and thought for a while. She must have contacted these students in private. No matter if it was through letters, short messages or emails, it's impossible for there to be no trace. Send 2 of you to the telecommunication company and ask them to check all the communication records of the victims and Zhao Ru in the past 2 months. Thinking about it, Ma Yu quickly said, "In addition, let the brothers go to the homes of the deceased's family members to take a look. Check if the deceased left anything useful behind. Since it's blackmail, I don't believe that there is nothing left." Ma Howd clapped his hands and said loudly, Well, let's go to work. This battle is not easy. Everyone, work hard. After the case is solved, I'll treat you all to a big meal." After that, Ma Yuran looked at the young policeman beside him. "You go to Gu Feng's house with me. I want to have a look there." Okay. It seemed that the space of the detention room was not much smaller than that of the rented room. It could even be said that without the furniture, there was more room to move around. But Zhao Ru didn't move since she was locked up. She sat on the simple bed very quietly. Next to it was a place for relieving oneself. It was a so-called toilet that was simply built with a cement wall. Well, it didn't taste good. Maybe that was the most unbearable part. Zhao Ru touched her collar subconsciously. However, her movements quickly stopped. From the interrogation room to the detention room, she had always appeared calm, but at this moment she revealed a little. It was as if his habit had been cut off all of a sudden. The physical and mental reaction of not being able to adapt immediately was like a person who had just started to quit smoking. His body showed signs of withdrawal, and he seemed a little restless. She stood up and looked at the empty bed. Then, she squatted down and looked at the bottom of the bed, which was also empty except for dust. Zhao Ru stood up abruptly and walked 2 steps forward. She grasped the iron bars in front of her and looked at the road. "It's gone. How did it disappear?" Zhao Ru still grasped her collar tightly, trying to recall everything, every detail. "Are you looking for this?" However, at this moment, Zhao Ru heard a pleasant voice behind her, a woman's voice. She immediately turned around. Under the dim light of the detention room, she saw a woman who pretended to be abnormally strange but seemed to be fatally beautiful. His sapphire blue eyes were like the sea, as if they could swallow her up at any time. Zhao Ru could not move her eyes away from the necklace hanging between her fingers. Instinctively, Zhao Ru walked forward and reached out to grab the necklace. But obviously, she couldn't get the necklace back so easily. Mississippi Maid stepped back lightly. It was just 1 step, but it was just enough to make Zhao Ru miss the target. "Give it back to me. You didn't ask me who I am and why I'm here, but the necklace." Mississippi Maid slightly mentioned the necklace and smiled. "It seems that it's really important to you." Or, you've been relying on it for a long time. Have you been wearing it for a long time? Zhao Ru suddenly shivered as if she had been drenched in a cold rain and then blown by a cold wind. She suddenly stepped back and stopped when she hit the iron bars. The iron bars were not opened. She remembered that the detention room was empty when she came here. How did this weird woman get in? She saw the woman walking towards her slowly. Zhao Ru was frightened. She said in a trembling voice, What do you want to do?" The servant girl stood in front of Zhao Ru. She reached out her hand and gently touched Zhao Ru's chin. "Don't be nervous. I won't hurt you. Relax." Mississippi Maid suddenly opened her mouth and blew. Zhao Ru felt a breeze on her face and was absent-minded. Seeing Zhao Ru's reaction, Yu Yi smiled with satisfaction. She held Zhao Ru's hand and led her to the bed in the detainment room. Then she sat down. Yu Yi pressed her palm on the back of Zhao Ru's hand and whispered, "Can you tell me where you got this necklace?" "I bought it in a jewelry store in Incheon building." "How long has it been?" 3 months ago. Have you been wearing it?" Yes. Yu Yi put the pendant in her palm and looked at it for a while. Then she stretched out her palm again, caressing Zhao Ru's cheek and turning her face towards her. She knew what her master was thinking. Her master didn't ask her to put the necklace back, but gave it to her. That was to say, she could do whatever she wanted with the necklace. What her master wanted to know was how Zhao Ru got the necklace. "Since you have been wearing it, don't lose it next time." She put the necklace back on Zhao Ru's neck. "Actually, she is also a beautiful girl." After that, Yu Yi combed Zhao Ru's messy bangs with her fingers and tidied her collar. In the evening, Gu Feng opened the door and saw Ma Haud and another policeman. He was impatient and impolite. "Officer Ma, what are you doing here? Haven't you hurt me enough? If it weren't for you last time, my family wouldn't be like this." Ma Haud didn't intend to be nice to such a person. He said indifferently, "Even without me, do you think you can keep the fact that you have a mistress outside and have a child with her? What else?" Gu Feng leaned against the door and lit a cigarette. "Is there any news about my wife? What are you policemen doing? It's been several days and there is no news at all." "Don't worry. Since the case has been reported, we will do our job." Ma Haud said indifferently, "We have traced your wife's bank account and found some places. If she is safe, we will find her soon." "Is that so? That's good." Gu Feng casually replied, "What else is there?" Ma Haud didn't want to waste his saliva on such a person. He pushed him away and walked into the house. "Wait. I didn't say you could come in." Gu Feng frowned. Unexpectedly, the young police officer who came with him reached out and gently pressed on his chest. "This is a search warrant. There's nothing wrong with your heart rejecting it, but your body better behave, okay? You." Gu Feng stopped helplessly. But he was angry because of this. He said discontentedly, "Don't dirty my place. Haven't you seen it before? What else is there to see?" Ma Haud ignored him. He walked into Gu Jiaje's room and began to check it carefully. But the room was not big and there seemed to be no useful information. Ma Haud just read Gu Jiaje's books out of boredom. Gu Feng leaned against the door of the room and looked impatiently. Ma Haud put down the book and asked, "Has this room been left untouched?" Gu Feng said, "No. My wife hasn't. Since then, she hasn't touched anything in this room." Ma Haud nodded. He was about to leave helplessly. But at this moment, he seemed to step on something. Ma Haud squatted down directly. The carpet in the room was right next to the window. It was just a small bump, but it could make his feet react. Of course, if he didn't pay attention to it, he wouldn't notice it at once. Ma Haud lifted the carpet in confusion and found what was hidden under the carpet, a very small white pill. It seemed to have fallen to the ground by accident and then rolled under the carpet. Even the part of the pill had been broken. It might have been accidentally stepped on when the policeman came up to check it. Ma Haud picked up the broken pill and frowned. He suddenly remembered the strange thing that old Sheen of the forensic department mentioned before. What did you find? Gu Feng and other policemen came over curiously. Ma Haud opened his palm and asked, "Does your son need to take medicine? How is his physical condition?" Gu Feng looked at it and didn't care. "I don't know if he is sick or in pain. Such a big kid, doesn't he know how to take care of himself when he is sick?" "When was your son's last physical examination?" Ma Haud rolled his eyes and asked. Gu Feng said impatiently, "How do I know? Isn't he your son? Make it clear, he is not my biological son." Gu Feng snorted. Ma Haud suddenly stood up. His oppressive aura made Gu Feng take a step back. He said in a panic, What do you want to do?" "Nothing, I want to have a midnight snack." "Do you want me to stay here for a midnight snack?" Ma Haud stared at him. "No. Go ahead." "Hello, old Sheen, are you still in the department? Can you help me identify something?" "Don't go, I'm coming." After making a phone call, Ma Haud looked at the young policeman beside him. "What are you waiting for? Drive." "Ma Haud, didn't you say you were going for a midnight snack? Drive. Do you want me to check in?" Chapter 355. Inchuan Building. Although it was called a building, it was more appropriate to describe it as a shopping mall. From the first floor to the fifth floor there were all kinds of shops. Food, clothes, accessories, and so on. Of course, this was a very ordinary place which attracted young people. But it didn't mean that the business here was very important. There were too many shops of the same type, and the shop owners might not be able to do one business in a day. Therefore, when customers walked in, the bosses who operated independently would definitely be very happy to slaughter. Well, entertain them. "Sir, miss, come in and take a look. My accessories here are all the latest styles. Are the silverware suitable? They are all 925 pure silver. Or, crystal is also fine. Powder crystal. Powder crystal can bring good luck. Buy one for your girlfriend. Look at her empty hands, such a beautiful girlfriend." It was as if his mouth was hit by a machine gun, which made the club owner, who was also a salesman, feel ashamed. That's right, the young man and woman here were the club owner and the maid duo. "Madam, have you seen such a necklace?" Yu Yi took out her phone, showing a picture. A black crystal pendant necklace. "This looks familiar." The saleswoman was stunned. "But it's very common." "Well, are you looking for the same one? Why don't you take a look at these, they look similar. If you like, our shop is having a promotion now, we will give it to you as soon as you reach 100. The saleswoman suddenly stopped talking because Miss Maid reached out and tapped her on the forehead. On the other side, Boss Luo was looking at the shop's accessories, but at the same time, he was also listening to the maid's question. "Think about it, can you remember this necklace? 3 months ago. It was a means to make the boss of the shop fall into a deep subconscious. In short, it was a kind of hypnosis to make people recall those trivial memories. 3 months ago." The saleswoman looked at her shop blankly, and after a while she said, "I remember. 3 months ago, a salesman came here to sell his products, and he gave me a batch of goods, saying that they were the best crystals. I bought some because they were cheap. But it's not easy to sell. I think a woman bought it." "Do you still remember what the salesman looked like?" Relax, you can remember, relax." At the same time, the servant girl took out a pencil and a piece of white paper and handed them to the landlady. Her finger continued to tap the landlady's forehead. The lady boss seemed to be unconsciously drawing something on the white paper with the pencil in her hand. It was a pretty portrait of a person. After a while, "Master, I don't think she knows much." Miss Maid brought the piece of paper with a face drawn on it to Luochio. His gaze shifted from the display case to the painting on the white paper. After taking a look, he was surprised to see that the painting was so lifelike. However, Luochio had no impression of the man in the portrait. He wore a pair of glasses and had a mole beside his left eye. It could be considered a special item. Other than that, He was just an ordinary guy. Auntie, have you sold all the things you bought? It seems that only the one in Zhao Ru's hand was sold. At this moment, Yu Yi took out a box from under the counter and opened it. The rest are here. According to the boss's wife, it's hard to sell, so she put it at the bottom of the counter as a loss. Luoqiu took out another necklace and rubbed it. It's not the same thing. Maybe it's just the necklace. Luoqiu smiled and closed the box. Now it seems that the black diamond of the Lu family and the crystal necklace of Zhao Ru are deliberately leaked by someone. You said that they all contain the same energy, similar to our great hall, something that can tempt the heart. Interesting. Yu Yi said indifferently, it's just a low-level means to magnify people's evil thoughts. It can't be compared with the lobby. Luoqiu smiled and said nothing. Master, can I check if the person in the portrait is in this city? No need. Luoqiu shook his head. If it's fate, we'll meet. Miss Maid knew that as the boss of the club, his hunch was always very accurate, so she didn't continue to ask. Luoqiu seemed to have found something at this moment. He smiled softly and opened a cabinet in the jewelry store. He took out a hand-woven rope chain with 3 amber opals. He untied the knot and lifted Yu Ye's left wrist, bringing it up. Let's go back. Boss Luo left the shop with his hands clasped behind his back. Of course, he paid for it. In the police station. I've found it. According to the composition of the medicine, it should be an anti-cancer drug called sidabinide. Anti-cancer drug. Ma Haud frowned. If old Qin said it was an anti-cancer drug, then it must be an anti-cancer drug. So he pondered for a while and said, Old Qin, guess where I found this pill? Not interested. Ma Haud blinked embarrassedly and said, I found it in Gu Jiajie's room. It fell to the ground and probably accidentally rolled into the carpet. It was ignored from the start. Old Qin suddenly stood up and walked out without saying a word. Ma Haud was stunned when he saw this. Huh? Where are you going? I want to check Gu Jiajie's body again. On the street, Shin Meihuan looked back and sped up her pace. She didn't relax until she returned to the rented house and closed the door. She looked at the small hole on the door and felt relieved when she didn't see anyone outside. Am I too nervous? She couldn't help asking herself. Taking a deep breath, Shin Meihuan put down the food she bought and walked into the room with some hot water. Although her son would take some action in the beginning, it was only a simple action. It was impossible for him to take care of himself. Stand up. Mom will wipe your body. Shin Meihuan took off her son's shirt and began to wipe his back. She had wiped her son's back several times. Every time she saw the scars on his body, she couldn't help but cry. That man was simply a demon. How could he beat his son like this? Why didn't you tell me? Shin Meihuan asked slowly, although she couldn't get the answer. But it doesn't matter. We will leave here soon. She pressed her son's shoulder and said softly, We will start a new life, just like before when we left your bastard father. You are the only one I have left. This time I will. She gently stroked her son's head, but suddenly her face changed. Those that were wrapped around her fingers were the heads that had easily fallen off her son's scalp. A handful of them. How could this be? How could this be? How could this be? She frantically tried to cover it up, but she grabbed even more in a flurry. She couldn't stop it from falling off at all. Chapter 356. A voice came to her mind. Even if he is resurrected, he may not be the son you know. But you have to know that your son is full of corpse smell, which is not a good thing for you. Your body will be damaged after a long time. In front of the mirror, Shin Meihuan washed her face again and again. The water on the basin overflowed slowly, but she looked at herself in the mirror and gradually became absent-minded. She couldn't remember the last time she looked at herself in the mirror. Was the person in the mirror with a pale face who seemed to have aged for years? His lips were pale due to the lack of blood, his eyes were lifeless, and his complexion was dark yellow. He looked just like a patient. No, I'm just too tired. Yes, I'm just too tired. She took a deep breath and turned the faucet tight. Then, she quickly poured the water from the basin onto her face again and again. When she left the bathroom, she said to herself, I'm not tired. Soon, it was time to depart, time to leave this place, time to start anew. How could he be tired? How could she let herself be tired? It was impossible. But the decay seemed to be getting more and more serious. It's all right, son. You're just sick. Don't worry, Mom is here. He could still move. He could open his eyes. His eyes seemed to say something. He was alive. Alive. Shin Mei-hwan gently held his face and said softly, It's all right, Mom is going to buy some foundation. It's all right, you'll be fine when you recover. Before that, you'll be fine. Yes, it's all right. He'll be fine. After she left the room, he suddenly stood up. His movements were very slow as he walked past the bathroom door. He turned his head and looked at his reflection in the corner of the mirror that was peeking out. He just stood there. Ma-ee, why don't you ask your subordinates to find Shin Mei-hwan? You don't have to bother with this kind of thing, right? On the street, a young policeman looked at Ma Howd after asking a passerby. Ma Yu leaned against the car door while smoking. He stretched his neck and said, It's mainly because I can't figure out some things. Zhao Ru said that Gu Jiajie's death had nothing to do with her, but why was he the fifth suicide? I don't get it. Of course, there was also the pill found in Gu Jiajie's room and what old Qin said. These were all things that Ma Howd couldn't understand. He heaved a sigh and said, Anyway, Zhao Ru is in a deadlock, so I decided to come out for some fresh air. That Wang Yuechuan is sitting in the meeting room opposite the Labor Department's office. I feel uncomfortable just looking at him. So this is the reason why you came out to look for him, why? Do you have a problem with that? Ma Howd glared at him. No. I'll go ask the owner of the store. The young man hurriedly ran across the road and walked into the store. According to the consumption records provided by the bank, they found that Shin Mei-hwan's last consumption was around here yesterday. Therefore, the possibility of her being in this area was very high. Ma Howd looked up at the environment of this place. In this kind of urban village, there were too many apartments for rent and the roads were quite complicated. It was not easy to find someone. But at this moment, the young police officer ran back quickly, beaming with joy. Horse private investigator, we found something. Tell me about it. I showed the shop owner the photo. According to him, he should have seen this woman before. The young police officer paused and said, He said that he had seen this woman twice. Both times, she went out at night and came back after shopping outside. The shop owner has lived in this village for decades, so he is very sensitive to strangers. Do you know where she lives? The shop owner just pointed to this direction, but I don't know the details. But it seems that she went out at about the same time these days. Let's split up and ask them one by one. It'll be faster that way. Maybe we can meet her directly. Ma Howd suddenly became excited. Madam, do you want anything else? Do you want to try this lipstick? It's the latest style with a nice color. No, I'll pay the bill. Shin Mei-hwan said simply. Then she swiped her card, took a small bag of cosmetics, and hurriedly left the cosmetics shop. The shop assistant glanced at her and felt that she was very nervous, as if she was hiding from someone. But it was none of her business. Anyway, it was someone else's business. After going out, Shin Mei-hwan looked at the time, thinking that there were only some vegetables and meat left in the supermarket at this time. She decided to pack a takeout and eat casually today. With that thought in mind, she stopped at a fast food restaurant on her way back. The dishes were placed in front of the restaurant. Behind the glass, the boss was chopping a drumstick. He glanced at it and said, What would you like to order? 2 meat dishes and 12 renminbi per dish. Soup is on the house. It was not standard Mandarin. The shop owner seemed to be a Cantonese. There was nothing her son liked to eat. Shin Mei-hwan couldn't help hesitating. But at this time, her face was a little strange. The glass in front of her was at night. In the reflection of the glass in front of her, did someone pass by behind her? Shin Mei-hwan turned around at once. Across the narrow alley in the urban village, several alleys were dark, and the old street lights were still flickering. Shin Mei-hwan subconsciously grasped her bag, lowered her head and said, "I don't want it." She left quickly, but she could vaguely hear the shop owner's low voice, "Luck." She didn't know what this sentence meant and didn't intend to think about it. She just wanted to go back to the place where she lived as soon as possible. After turning into an alley, she directly ran. But obviously she was not the only one running on the street. At this time, the other figure also began to walk quickly, so much so that he began to run. Wearing a hat and a mask, he was obviously looking for something. His eyes kept moving in the alley. But he had to choose to leave after finding nothing. It seemed that he was really discovered. Could it go on like this? He secretly asked himself. A trace of hesitation flashed through his eyes. Just as he was thinking about what he should do, he suddenly heard such a voice. It was just behind him. "Have I seen you before?" He suddenly turned around and saw a middle-aged man with a mustache and a big belly standing behind him. "Ma-howd. Have I seen you somewhere before?" Ma-howd stepped forward. He didn't feel suspicious as a police officer, although this guy's hat and mask were quite suspicious. But after he and his men separated to look for people, they undoubtedly found Shin Mei-hwan's trace. Ma-ili didn't intend to go up and call for the missing madam immediately. Intuition told him that the lady seemed to be nervous, as if she was hiding from something. He followed her all the way until Shin Mei-hwan stopped at the snack shop. He found this suspicious man. Ma-yi felt that he seemed to have seen this guy somewhere before, but he couldn't remember where at the moment. "No, I haven't seen him before." After hearing this, the guy lowered his head and intended to leave Ma-howd. "Wait." Ma-yi turned around and put his hand on the guy's shoulder. He was quite a thin guy, which was too weak for an adult's point of view. Unexpectedly, the moment Ma-howd put his arm on the man's shoulder, he suddenly shook it off, turned over and pushed Ma-howd, and ran away quickly. "Shit! You want to get away from me? No way." Ma-yi didn't say anything. He took off his shoes and threw them out. Ma-howd, who was good at sniper rifles and Coke cans, was also good at throwing shoes. His shoes directly hit the guy's heel, making him lose his balance and fall to the ground after a few steps. Ma-yi quickly walked to the man's side. He grabbed the man's arm with one hand and lifted him up from the ground. "Don't move. Police. I suspect you are suspicious. Tell me your name and ID card." Ma-yi pressed the guy against the wall and asked sternly. However, this guy seemed to be dead and refused to speak. He just kept struggling and had a terrified look on his face. Ma-howd turned the man around, but at the same time, he pressed him down hard and reached out to grab the mask on this suspicious guy's face. "Don't!" The suspicious guy let out a cry of alarm, but he was unable to prevent the mask from being removed from his face. "Let me see who you are, you are." Ma-howd's expression suddenly froze. He suddenly fell into a state of slow thinking. He couldn't react in time, but he suddenly felt a sharp pain coming from his toe. The foot that was not wearing shoes was ruthlessly stepped on. His 10 fingers were in pain, so it was probably the same for his toe. In the chaos, he was pushed to the ground by the guy. "Stop. Don't run. Don't run, it hurts." Ma-ili hurriedly got up, but the pain in his feet made him kick and kick. He could only watch as this guy escaped into another small alley in front of him. Ma-yi, why are you sitting here? What happened to your foot?" the young policeman asked along the way. At this time, he finally saw Ma-howd sitting on the stairs of a shop on the street. He couldn't help but walk over in surprise. Ma-howd lowered his head, rubbing his foot while thinking about something. Anyway, his eyebrows were tightly knitted. "Ma-yi? Ma-howd raised his head blankly and said, Do you think the dead can be resurrected?" "What? Do you know who I just saw?" "Who?"